Start in a few minutes. Peace, Sister Yvette. Dion, I got your email and I appreciate your donation. I didn't get a chance to respond. I saw it right before I came out. I just opened my email. Much appreciated. All right, we're going to give it a minute or two. Just going to wait for a few more people in the room. Then we're going to go ahead and start. Minute. Get this puppy rolling. All right, peace and greetings to all the gods and goddesses on this path, doing actual work, real work, not just reading about it, not just regurgitating information, actually doing work and getting results. Before we begin, let me just go again through some quick announcements. Today, this month flying by too, October 15th. So we are 10 days away from our 3-day event at the end of the month. We're looking, it's filling up. We're out of no more rooms for presentations. All the spots are filled up, just to put that out there. The event, if you still would like to attend the event, that event will be taking place October 25th to the 27th. That's next weekend. For those that have registered and signed up, remember, just to put it out there, we are starting 9 a.m. on the 25th. We have a long itinerary to get through, so starting on time is very important. All right, we know there's many of you coming and traveling from out of state, so please plan accordingly. That'll run from the 25th to the 27th, Journey of the Black Adept Conference #2. This will be our second year doing this. This is something we're going to do annually, once a year. We're going to keep it always in the month of October. If you're interested in attending that event and you want to know how to register for it, you can send me an email. The email is in the description box, khnum19@gmail.com. On November 2nd, which is a Saturday from 3 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing a private class on Lilith. We'll be discussing how to work with the Lilith energy using rituals, sigils, sex magic, and other methods and spiritual practices of how to connect and work with the Lilith energy. If you're interested in signing up for that, again, shoot me an email and I will send you the information how to sign up for that. For those that have already signed up, and again, I'll be reminding you every week until the 2nd, please remember it's Eastern Standard Time, because I know we have people that live in different time zones. So adjust your time according to Eastern Standard Time. Whatever 3 Eastern Standard Time is your time zone. If you're outside of the Eastern Standard Time zone, please make that adjustment. All right, very important. So that'll be on November 2nd, Saturday, 3 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're interested in getting a reading or a spiritual consultation, spiritual reading or a spiritual consultation, send me an email. Let me know the days and times you are available, which one you would prefer, and also let me know the time zone you live in. Very, very important. And I will get back to you. Also, don't forget to hit the like button. That expands the channel on more search engines on YouTube, and it broadens the outreach of the channel and the people it reaches. So please don't forget to hit the like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you would like notifications, also hit the notification bell. And you will also get notifications anytime I upload a video or anytime we go live. Also, check out our pages on Instagram, Primordial Chaos, and also on Primordial Chaos. All right. That's the announcements. Shout out to the Black Flame 11 crew in New York. Let me put that out there too. And I'll remind people of these announcements later when we get more people obviously come on. New York City area. If you are interested in coming on board with what we have started and begun there this past August, as far as doing ritualistic work and getting together and doing stuff to grow collectively and individually simultaneously. If you're in New York or the tri-state area or the surrounding areas and you would like to be a part of the Black Flame, we are planning our next event for March 20th, which is right near the spring equinox. We'll be doing that ritual in Astoria, Queens in New York. We meet monthly. We have a video conference call monthly to discuss what we're doing and what direction we're getting ready to head in, et cetera, et cetera. If you're interested in being, but let me make this clear, not being nosy, not just being curious George, and just want to see what's going on. If you're going to actually want to be a part of that, participate, do work. It's not a social club, hangout club. It's not a club to come in and try to impress people, which you think you know, because that's not going to fly. It's a waste of time. It's a group that has decided again to come together to do work. If that's not your goal, don't waste your time. If it is, and it's something you're interested in, send me an email, and we can look at linking you in to the Black Flame 11 crew in New York City. All right. That covers the announcements. Also, for those coming, I'm sorry, one more thing. On Friday, the 25th, I know some of you on here that have signed up for the Black Adept Conference and are attending. 9 a.m. start time. We will have, brief meet and greet. First half an hour, coffee, donuts, all that good shit. Little socializing just to, break the ice. And then we're going to get right into the presentations. Friday and Saturday, pretty long filled days. And again, on both of those evenings, there will be ritualistic workings, which we'll discuss to an extent at the events. All right. So just want to remind everybody that 9 a.m. critical. We get started on time so we can stay with the itinerary. All right. So what I want to talk about tonight, you see the title, Primitive Sorcery. All right. To dispel the myths. And again, it's important to dispel a lot of the myths, the mythology, and some of the indoctrination, obviously, you'll find over the web. Obviously, if you're tuning in for the first time, this is an occult left-hand path to self-mastery. That's the topics we cover. It's not a religious channel. We don't really care to focus on any of that nonsense. Sorcery and witchcraft are interrelated. Now, when you hear the word sorcery, and the reason why I titled the video Primitive Sorcery, because sometimes we don't go back. People like to focus on areas of history, for an example, that make them feel comfortable. What am I talking about? When you look in the quote-unquote conscious community, right? Everybody seems to gravitate towards Egypt, if that's the only aspect of Africa. It's the aspect people like to focus on because it's one they're most comfortable with. It's one they're most fascinated with. But if you really understood your history and you go to the period of the Neolithics, we got to remember ancient Egypt was the first established, or the first great established culture in society. There were cultures and spiritual systems that predate Egypt. When you go along the Nile region, the Neolithics, who Pygmies and the Watusis, some will know them as, who from them came who we know as the ancient Egyptians that migrated into Nubia. Let me be clear on that. Not what we know as the Hyksos or the modern day Egyptians or the last 46 dynasties. I just want to make that clear. Why am I throwing all this out? Not to give you a history lesson, because you can find all that shit on the internet and you can listen to people talk about that stuff, and you have so much access to information today to research all that, whereas years ago you didn't. I say all that to say that because the sorcery that I kind of want to bring to the surface tonight goes back prior to those times. All right. When we say primitive, just like again, when you look at ancient Africa, pre-dynastic or before the dynastic, what we know as the dynastic Egypt, a lot of these systems were being utilized. Now, sorcery today, when we take it today, you can see sorcery affiliated with many different spiritual paths. You have Luciferian sorcery. You see sorcery affiliated with witchcraft. So there's different aspects of it, but the concept or the type of magic and spiritual system there is some similarities. It just depends. For an example, if you're saying a Luciferian sorcery, you're approaching it with that mindset. You don't have to be a Luciferian in the sense, and I've mentioned this many times before, a lot of systems of doctrines added out here right now are very Luciferian in nature. The first principle of Luciferianism is you are God. You are the sole controller and governor and ruler of your spiritual path, right? You don't worship or seek to gravitate towards external things for your salvation. You take responsibilities for your actions, your successes, your failures. That's a Luciferian mindset principle. That can be found in many other existing spiritual systems. So sorcery is based on the precept that you are the master. And again, we ain't talking about Harry Potter type shit too, because then there's that mythological sorcery. Because again, we hear some of these words and we automatically attribute them to things we've been with, whether we're conscious of. So sorcery is the ability of the individual to recognize that divine within themselves, to master the elements, to be able to enforce their will upon a situation, whether it's through black magic, or what we call greater black magic or lesser, etc. And being able to tap into those abilities. It's Luciferian in nature because it takes a god or a goddess-like mindset to use those principles. We've even talked about the path. I've done videos on it, Sith sorcery, using the path of the Sith. See, with manipulating things and shaping them to your form and how you want them to work. So you can take certain mythologies, and again, I use the Sith path, right? That's a path that the Sith philosophy or the Sith path is something that can be used on the path of self-mastery when manipulated by the individual to work for their benefit. So this in essence is what the understanding of sorcery is. Now, primitive sorcery, which I have a short excerpt here I'm going to go through. It's not going to be too long-winded. And this is from a book called, and just for the artwork in this book alone, I would suggest you this book. I'm going to go through a section here. This is a book called Witches, written by Colin Wilson. This is the book. Just for the artwork alone, I would suggest you get this book. And let me show you some of the detailed workings. I just got this book a few years ago. A lot of the artwork caught my attention in it. Just detailed work. Really good shit. I'm going to be taking some stuff next few weeks. I've had this book for a while, and I totally forgot that I've had it. Look at some of the details. I mean, just for that alone, it's a good book to add to your collection. This one speaks. It's a section in this one. But a really, really, really good book. I'm going to go into the there's a section in here on sorcery, and there's a couple key points I'm just going to run through real quick just to give us a general understanding. Then I'm going to build on it a little, and then we will go from there. And then when I'm done, I will go into the chat and take your questions and your comments, and possibly open up the phone lines if you want to call in if we have time. All right, so let me find the page. I know it's in here. Can't remember what page it is, though, to be honest with you. Where is it? Give me a second. I should have marked the shit. Okay, here we go. I got it. Go to page 32. All right, sorcery, primitive. Primitive man recognized these forces, and he sensed the way that they're affected by the moon. Because there's, as I was saying earlier, there's a connection with working with the elements in sorcery, right? Affected by the forces of the moon, the sun, and the planets. It was this sense of magical relationship between the earth and the solar system that led to his earliest interest in the heavens, meaning human beings, men 1 and 2. He also believed, rightly or wrongly, that the earth is permeated with spirit forces, and that these can also be propagated and used by human beings. So the chief task of the primitive witch, or the shaman, was to form a bridge between the human visible world and this world of spirits and what some might call heavenly forces. So let's stop there for 1 second. So here's one of the key concepts. What is the goal of the sorcerer? What is the sorcerer trying to obtain, to do? One of the goals they're trying to achieve. We're always talking about traveling or connecting to the astral realm. You're trying to bridge the gap between the objective and the subjective realm. Subjective, obviously, being the spiritual. Remember, on the astral plane, when you're traveling, here's a mistake people make. I always hear people talking about the astral realm, but there's realms beyond the astral realm. I don't ever hear nobody talking about that. All right. This is kind of, I don't want to say funny, but I think it's a way of mind that sometimes people get locked in. It can create a blockage. The astral realm is just the opening or the door to the many different realms of your subjective mind, right? So your goal as a sorcerer is to connect energies. I know they call them forces here, but we're going to use more left-hand path, occult terms. You're to connect those spiritual, mental, the physical, and the elemental. The sorcerer does. He or she conjures up a formula of how they can manipulate those elements. All right. In most ancient cultures, the moon was the goddess of magic, and significantly, she was also the earth goddess. In Greek mythology, the moon goddess blends into Demeter, the earth goddess. Astarte, the Canaanite moon goddess, is also the earth goddess. Now, when you get into different cultures, obviously, the mythology or the tradition changes, right? So this is just coming from the Greek perspective, which is really, in my opinion, irrelevant. Now, when you talk about that divine feminine, the female god, you'll find in a lot of these systems there's always a chief female deity. And I want to make this clear. I've always said from day one, the most powerful archetypes you will work with in black magic are not what we would classify as male archetypes of deity, but females. You can correlate this to Lilith, Kali, Sekhmet. If any of those deities, and I want to address something real quick, and I don't know if that person got my email, but let me address. Somebody sent me an email, and they were asking an honest question about Kali, or actually asking for my opinion about Kali. I did respond to the email. I'm not sure if that person is listening or will see this when it uploads, but I'll address it. Not sure where they got their explanation. The question in the email was asked, why would somebody want to work with Kali if Kali is about destroying the ego and preventing you from obtaining desires? Well, I've never heard of it. That's not the aspect of Kali that I work with. Now, you could have got somebody's philosophy, interpretation, or opinions on it. And this person was saying when they do the mantras, working with the Kali energy, they don't get nothing from it, or they got nothingness from it, or some type of blockage or disconnect. Now, it could be because the way it was presented to you. Now, I'm not sure where that concept came from, but I just want to address that. That's not, I don't know where that comes from, but that's not what, Kali is about or how Kali works. It's completely the opposite. Kali is clearing obstacles in your path that are making you evolve. And when you're accessing different aspects of Kali, now there's different aspects. We talked about one a few months back, Kali Durga. All right, Kali Durga is a warrior path of Kali that is destructive, but it destroys and annihilates those things that need to be destroyed about yourself, so you can reconstruct those things about yourself that need to be fine-tuned and that you can reintegrate back into your path. All right. And then on the aspect of desires, remember, Kali can be propagated to activate that psyche brain or that to obtain your desires. Completely the opposite. You can propagate Kali for financial means when done correctly. When I say correctly, be careful, because if you're propagating Kali energy for financial means, things might be destroyed path that are prevented from financial success. And it could be the person that's laying next to you every night. People don't prepare for it. And I keep telling people that, because if you're propagating the Kali energy for success, and say you got some deadbeat that's not carrying their weight, whether they're male or female, your significant other, your spouse, if you got that dude that sits at home all day, plays PlayStation and doesn't want to get a job or start a business, that Kali will get that out of your way if you start working with her on money. I get this all the time, working with Kali for money, and then all of a sudden everything in my life got turned upside down. Well, remember, Kali doesn't give a shit. When you access that energy, whatever's blocking you with that will be removed. And people tend to forget that. And it's not just using Kali because that's what came up in the email. That could be the same case with Sekhmet. Now, in the Lilith class, when we get into the Lilith class, how I know a lot of people are full of shit and really don't work with Lilith, sometimes Lilith doesn't even respond, depending on the approach. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the class. Lilith can be funny like that. Not everybody is going to be reached and taken to the night side and taken into that Citra Aqua, the other side, that klepothic realm. That's when you really start tapping into the inner awareness of who you are. This tends to happen when you access energy. Now, sometimes that can come in the form of getting no response. And that's why I was referring to this email, because the approach is wrong. When the approach is wrong and you get results, that's a telltale sign to alert you that your approach is out of whack, because you're not getting the results. So again, I don't know where that interpretation came from. There's a lot of information out there. People have many different breakdowns and interpretations and philosophies and spiritual systems when it comes to the goddess Kali. But I've never heard of that one. I don't work with it in that aspect. Don't care to. I haven't seen or can verify that's the case. So that's the best I can tell you on that. I just wanted to address that. I did respond to that email. Hopefully that person got it, and hopefully it helped them moving forward. And we have to also understand this. Remember, not everything you work with is going to resonate with you. Let's use common sense now. I don't care if it's this path you're on, this spiritual, or if you're on whatever other spiritual path, right? Not everything on a particular path that you're working with is going to be for you. It's going to resonate. And it doesn't mean you have to work with everything. That's what the importance of this path is when it's called the path of self-mastery. The key is self-mastery. You are the architect, the designer. You're laying out the path for yourself. You have to choose what works for you, and whatever doesn't, you just discard. You just put to the side. It's not for you. Don't waste your time and energy like a lot of these clowns. They want to debate, fuss, and fight and argue. If it's something that's not in agreement with your personal spiritual path, toss it to the side. That's it. Not everything is for everybody. That's how I roll. If somebody's breaking something down or explain or presenting something that I don't resonate with, I just don't deal with it. That's it. Focus more on what does work for you, because bottom line is, if you're reading all of this information, studying all these books and whatever path you claim or to be on, if you can't apply any of that information, it's pointless. What good is it? It just means you've remembered and regurgitate a bunch of information. That's not what this path. We're not, as they say in sports, we're not the Sunday afternoon armchair quarterback that we sit on the recliner and we can figure it all out from the recliner. When we're in the game, though, it would be a different story. When we're getting pressured by the defensive line, it'd be a different story. Well, this is the same thing. We're not armchair magicians on this path. We don't just sit in our recliner and talk shit. And we have a lot of people on this path that do that. They like to hide behind, keyboards. I call them keyboard gangsters, fake screen names, and they don't want to put themselves out there to be questioned or exposed. The thing is, if you're firm on your path, you have to scrutinize. Just as I've said here for years, and even before I was on YouTube, going back to the 80s and the 90s, I had no problem, due to this day that know me, of always being in an open discussion. You have to be able, if you're firm and you're sharp on your path, you have to be able to take that and understand that not everybody is going to, and that's okay. Just like you're not going to agree with everybody else, and that's okay. That's a Luciferian mindset or perspective, because who has a Luciferian mindset knows there's going to be a multitude of perspectives when it comes to truth. The big mistake people make, and I presented this question, is there such a thing as absolute truth? Yes, to the individual, but that truth is based on the perception of the individual. What do I mean by that? Every one of us here is evolving at a certain frequency, at a certain pace, right? One of us perceives things in varying degrees of vibration. Now we have to go back to the 7 Hermetic principles. This is why I keep telling everybody a good place to start on the path to self-mastery is mastering the 7 Hermetic principles. Not like they tell you in the Hotep community, master Ma'at, the laws of Ma'at. That's wrong. That comes afterwards, because you can't really understand and master the laws of Ma'at if you have not deciphered and mastered the 7 principles of Tahuti. It doesn't work like that, because the principles of Tahuti deal with the subject and Ma'at deals with the objective realm. You can't, it just doesn't make sense. It's the wrong way. Now, truth, you could have 8 people looking at the same thing, right? We have this discussion a lot. 8 people could be looking at the same thing, and we could have 8 different perspectives on that same thing, right? I can do something basic by put this water bottle here, and if everybody looking at it from a different angle, notice different things, they would perceive different things. And if we went to each individual, they would be able to point out certain things and others would. Why is that? Because of the perception level, the varying degrees of vibration that this so-called frequency or truth resonates with us and how we perceive it. Not everybody perceives it the same way. Just as one thing for one person could be something what one would classify as negative or wrong, and that same thing to another person wouldn't apply. They wouldn't look at it. You understand? That way, it wouldn't be negative to them. Why? Based on perception. What affects our perception in understanding what truth is? How we were raised, our background, what we were educated with, sometimes your ethnicity and your culture and how you were raised. And if there's religious education there, this all affects of how truth is perceived. So the reason why when a dogma, a philosophy, or a system declaration, you have a lot of these groups going, this is the absolute truth. The next question is according to who? Okay? The next question is according to who? Okay? According to the that was written up and designed to stay within those parameters of the rules and regulations that that system designed, then yes, of course, anybody that's in those parameters is going to be in agreement with that. But when you have somebody that's thinking outside the box or looking outside the box, they're seeing it from an entirely different perspective. They're not looking at it like that. Okay? So truth is based on perception and how the individual perceives it. Okay? And you can just use a general statement, okay? And you'd get different perspectives on that, okay? Again, we could use the sports analogy. You could take, let me use this one because I can't stand the Dallas Cowboys, so let me throw that out there. Somebody, if I made a statement and said the Dallas Cowboys suck, right? Well, Dallas Cowboy fans would get pissed at that, and they would perceive and dig deeper and find the good. They would say, oh, but they got this player, that player. And then I would just simply follow the first 3 games they played in one. They played against teams, 3 of the worst teams in the league at the time. Teams were no-win teams. And then the last 3 teams they faced were good teams, and they blew all 3 of those games. Well, the game they played the Jets, they should have won. That's not that great. So now we have a different perception of, are the Dallas Cowboys a good team or do they suck? You see, it depends who's perceiving it. I perceive the Dallas Cowboys of sucking based on the performance. Whereas another individual might take that same perception and pull just the things that they feel define what makes them a good team. I mean, we could do this all night with any type of concept, okay? So it's important to understand it. Why is that important? Because in the 7 Hermetic Principles of Tahuti, especially when practicing sorcery, you have to understand step 1, all energy is productive, right? It's just knowing how to utilize it. The who, the when, the where, the why, and the how. See, other paths will tell you there's bad energy and there's good energy. Right there, you limit your power. When you start classifying shit as that, good, bad, right, wrong, evil, now we're totally gravitating away from understanding what greater black magic or sorcery is. Unfortunately, it's not governed by those things on that realm. That's morals, that's personal. Okay, we're not talking about basic morals like respect elders. It's not what I'm talking about. That's common sense. You should know to do those things. I'm talking about when you're working with these, as described in that section that I read there, forces, I like to say energies, whatever you want to call it. They're not restricted by what those things that you define or classify on this realm. Remember, understanding how sorcery and greater black magic work, it's beyond 3-dimensional. It's beyond person, place, or thing. If you try to classify it, define it, or explain it by person, you'll never understand it. And the problem is most people's arguments are classified under those 3 categories. You can't really take something that vibrates outside of 3-dimension, person, place, and thing, and try to explain that same concept within a 3-dimensional mind frame. It doesn't work. The understanding of it, whether it's astral traveling, or people always ask questions about reincarnation, you can debate that for hours. There'll be different perspectives on it. The only true confirmation of that is when the individual, through ritualistic work, has experience. But understanding it's personal and not trying to pass that personal experience on to a multitude of others and trying to get them to co-sign on their personal experience, because then we're back to starting a religion, a following. And as I said, we have a lot of people that do that. They want you to co-sign on their personal experience. I talk to aliens. I speak to beings. Great, maybe you do. Maybe you do. But see, how we operate on this path, if I'm not having like or similar experiences, I have to make it known that, look, I'm not saying you are or not. I'm saying I haven't had that experience, so it's not real to me. It's an interesting conversation, but in order for that to become a reality to me, I have to raise myself up to that realization and have that experience. That's what this path is about, creating your own experiences, not sponging off of somebody else's experience, not being fascinating and enthralled with somebody else's subjective experience. That's why, as I said before, you can't find a video that I've done ever on YouTube rambling on that I speak and communicate with beings and rambling on about all these personal experiences on and on that I've had, because then I have an agenda if I do that. If that's all I talk about, now I have an agenda. Now I'm trying to promote something. I'm trying to suck you in and lure you in. Now, I might allude occasionally here and there to an experience, but it's brief, but it's always in relation to the topic. But I won't get on here. I see people get on YouTube. Yeah, I had to do this video because I had a dream and I received this message, and that's personal. Just share the message. But it's an agenda when you got to put the stamp on behind it, because then there's something greater at work here. Everybody wants to be some messiah, savior-like figure. And the only messiah or savior you should be looking for is yourself, because that's the only one that's going to do anything for you that's productive. There is no spook, mythological spirit, god, or being that's going to do it for you. And no individual can do it for you, okay? You are feeling and motivated to do it for yourself. How? By step one, having knowledge of self on this path. That's step one. Until you know yourself, as the saying goes in alchemy, you can't know the gods. Know thyself and thou shalt know the gods. So as we start looking for the understanding of life's mysteries, creation, the creator, God, goddess, whatever definition you need to define it from, we start it externally. That's how religion duped us from day one. And most of it's not our fault, because remember, our ancestors, our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, they came up in the same system of indoctrination. But you know how you break that chain? Is when you get information and you pass it on to your seed, your children. Now the cycle is broken. People always say, well, how do we change things? Well, it starts there. It got to be knowledge of self. You can't, look, a lot of these other doctrines are teaching save the world. We must all come together as one, unity, peace, and love. Well, if you're jacked up and fucked up yourself and you ain't work on your shit and you're not right, you are no good to nobody outside of yourself. First and foremost, you have to get your shit together before you can help anybody else. If you're conflicted mentally, you got emotional, mental problems, spiritual issues, you got conflicts going on within your family, with your spouse, your money is jacked up, your personal life is a hot mess, your living situation is jacked up. How in the world are you going to be beneficial to anybody else when you are not even beneficial to yourself? Okay? So step one, teach on this path, knowledge of self first. So when one has that knowledge of self first, the inner awareness is created as far as what direction they need to go, he or she, to get themselves in order. Then you can start to branch out and be productive and start assisting and helping others by educating them on the same process you went through. You ain't helping nobody going to them with some deep knowledge you read in a book. That's great. It's good for the moment, but if you can't take that same knowledge that you're dropping that's so deep and heavy to that person and show them how they can apply that to transform and change their life, then what have you really done? You really haven't done shit. All you've done is give somebody false hope. The objective is what we talk about on this path can bring about that change. I always told you, look, this path is based on what I like to call the 5 P's of the path to self-mastery. And those 5 P's or principles, that's what the P symbol is: mastering yourself spiritually first, in this order: mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. All this is a part of, when I say primitive sorcery, I don't just mean ancient, primitive, going back thousands and millions of years ago. Primitive also has root in the word prime. So I'm talking about getting to the prime, the core of things. Real sorcery or primitive sorcery is about self-transformation. That's the whole point of what I'm trying to get at. And it starts with those 5 principles, right? If the work you're doing on your spiritual path is not geared in those 5 places, in that order: spiritually always first, knowledge of self; mentally, being in a sound mind and a sound body. That's important. We got a lot of space cadets out here. I'm gonna keep it real. I run into cats, like, again, they have UFO. Look, it's not to knock it. Maybe you are. I've run into motherfuckers over the years that think they're an incarnation of Heru, I ran into a motherfucker who thought he was the angel Gabriel, true story. Dude used to wear a white flowing robe, painted his fingernails purple. I talked about it on a show a few years back. I bring that up to say when there's that disharmony between the objective and the subjective, the person usually goes to Cadetville and doesn't come back. When a person is too subjective, they usually abandon everyday reality. Regardless if you're calling it your mundane existence, this world is an illusion. The point is you're living in it. If it's an illusion, stop paying your mortgage, stop paying your car payments, stop going to the store and buy food. Let me see what happens if it's that illusion. And if it's that illusion and you're that deep, think yourself out of it then. Okay? Watch out for those people. Everything is an illusion. This is, I control the dream. Well, I say to the person, and no disrespect, if you're working at McDonald's for minimum wage, that's the illusion and the dream you manifested for yourself. Living in mansions, driving yachts, if this is just an illusion and it's child's play and it ain't no thing but a chicken wing, snap your finger and it's not reality, people. That's usually the person that's disconnected, doesn't have that harmony between the subjective and the objective. They go spook. And usually it's an escape because they fail at what they call their mundane existence. What's their mundane existence? Taking care of your children, taking care of your family, if you have family, if you have children, or even if you're solo, successfully taking care of yourself. If you have all this knowledge, wisdom, and power, it should reflect in some shape, form, or fashion in your life. Don't feel this super duper heavy, deep person and you're still living in your mother's basement and sleeping on your mother's couch, driving a hoopty, working for $8, $9 an hour. Again, no disrespect, but I got to call it for what it is. I'm talking to the person that claims to be that deep and heavy and are in that situation. Now, I'm not saying your materialistic thing defines you. That's not what I'm saying. Because then people get all hot in the collar. Oh, it's not just about money. It's not. But it is part of the principles that have to be mastered. Let's not act like it. And if you don't agree with that, then stop. Whatever it is you do for income, stop doing it. And meditate your shit into existence if you're that deep. We have to understand, my point being simply, and not to stay on that too long, is we have to understand how to, a sorcerer understands how to create harmony between the subjective and the objective. What does that mean? There's a time to work. There's a time to play. There's a time to do nothing. There's a time to rest, relax, and rejuvenate, right? Understanding that harmony comes from, and I always said this, you've heard me say this a lot, is mastering your time is magic in itself. And a lot of people fail at that. Why am I saying that? You know how many times I get an email and people will say, man, I ain't got the time to do it, man. I try to do this. It just seems like I don't do anything. I can't do no rituals. I ain't got no time for spirit work. You know, I work 2 jobs or I run a business. That takes up 12 to 18 hours a day. I got kids, I got a family. And I just want to get the violin and start playing the violin, play the sad song. You know what my response to those people is? Because they think they're going to get sympathy. And you know why I have no sympathy for those people? Because I'm one of those people. That's bullshit. I'm not even buying that excuse. Because in 2019, the way society is, I think 90% or more people can make that same claim. They're too busy and they don't have time. Yes, I'm different world. It's not like back in the days where you can work a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 job. Them days are long gone. Night shifts, split shifts, early morning shifts, 5, 6, 7 days, businesses, 5, whatever it is. We all can use that excuse. It's a bunch of bullshit, and all it shows me is how weak the individual is and how non-serious they are about their path. I've said mastering your time is magic. I've said this before, not because I want a cookie or a pat on the back. Throughout the week, 4 or 5 days a week, I'm up at 4 a.m. to start my day, to do what it is I need to do. Yes, tomorrow I will be up at 4 a.m. doing a video on here, and we'll be up at 4 a.m. going about handling my business. I have a schedule set throughout the course of the week, mastering and shaping my time so it fits my needs so I could still focus on my spiritual path and do what I have to do. And I'm not saying that because I want a pat on the back. I'm saying that to those that claim they have no time. It's not an excuse. Join the club. It's called life. All right. And this path toughens you up. It doesn't find excuses or can. It creates opportunities while you can. So I always listen to these people gripe and complain. And I say, you know what? You sat here and gave me 8, 9, 10 different reasons why you can. But guess what? You didn't give me one reason why you can't. What does that tell me about the individual? It tells me they're not that mentally, I don't know if you want to use the word tough or strong, they don't have no mental fortitude. That's the word I'm looking for. They just don't have it. And that has to change. And that has to be addressed out the gate when you're doing work like this, because it's the day and time we're living in. It's just the day and time, people. And guess what? If that's your issue, it's probably not going to get any better. The only way it gets better is by you making the adjustments you need to make it work for you. How are you going to do that? Look, I find I get my most work done through periods of the day or late evening hours. I've created a block, between like 11 and 1, where I can get a lot of shit done. Or days, if I'm not doing a video, I can start 10 to midnight and get work done in bed and be up by 4 o'clock. It's bullshit. So mastering your time or manipulating your time, and you'll find things you didn't. Here's the crazy shit, and that's what sorcery is: a form of manipulating in your benefit. You'll find, like, damn, I barely had that much time, and how did I get all that stuff done? You'll find that you break what we call the false illusion of linear time, because it's an illusion. When you're trapped in linear time and you're calculating the minutes, the seconds, the hours, the day, and all that, that's when you feel like you are at the mercy of time. When you're locked in on this path, and give you an example, I know there's many times I've done ritualistic work, and if I'm in some meditation or some visualization or in some intense ritualistic work, I felt like I was locked in that thing for hours, and I wound up coming out and find out only 30, 45 minutes went. That's confirmation you've broken the false concept or illusion of time. When you have a long list of things you need to get done in a day, and this happens to me frequently, and I use this as a form of manipulating time and using it as magic. And I might have a 2, 3, 4 hour block, and at the gate, like, shit, I can't get all this done in that period. And then you get it done, and then you look back and go, how the fuck did I do that? Knowing that it didn't look like I had enough of time to do it, because you focused on the task at hand. You weren't thinking about, because if you go into it with the constant thought in the back of your mind, I'm not going to get this done. I'm not going to get this done. This is not going to work. I'm not going to be able to do it. If that's running through your mind through the whole process, then you're going to fail. You become your thoughts. But if you block that out, and think about this, think about how when you're focused on something and you block everything out, it gets done. It's the same way. Focus. I'm going to get here by this time. I'm going to get there. I'm going to leave there. I'm going to go to the gym and exercise. I'm going to spend an hour. I'm going to get out of the gym there. Then I'm going to go ahead and run to the store, get a couple of things I need to pick up. Then I'm going to come back there and pick up. All right, then I got to go when you're locked in like that, you don't even look at it like that. You don't look at, damn, I got 5, 6 things to do. There's no way I can get that done within 2 or 3 hour period. Then you failed out the gate before you started. If you are a sorcerer and you have the mental fortitude, you can get it done. That divine, godlike, or goddess-like quality comes from within. Okay? Nothing external is going to bring that to you. What brings it to you is you realizing, just do it. Like this is it. That you just got to get in the mindset. You got to get to getting. It's got to get done. And it's done by understanding. Look, here, let me give you this example. I talked about this before. How many people are guilty of doing this frequently? And I'm sure a lot of people will admit to this. How many times if you're at your place of business, whether it's your business or you work for somewhere, and you say you're there, I'm going to come home tonight, I'll come in, I'm going to shower, I'm going to go ahead and study this book, and then I'm going to do some ritualistic or spiritual work, right? That's what you said in the day. Sounds good. You put the thought out there. Then as the day progresses, right? Watch out the mind. Remember, the subconscious mind is like a sponge. It needs something to clean, keep it busy. So now the subconscious mind is bored, and as the day progresses, you go, what, man, I'm getting a little bit tired. Now I went from doing that to let me see how it goes when I get home. Then you're driving home, you're driving home, and I'm telling you this because if I go back in the day and reflect, I'm guilty of this. This is why I'm telling you this. Then as you're driving home, you get home, you say, all right, I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. All right, let me eat something first. I'm just gonna sit down and watch TV just for about 30 minutes. I'm gonna check in on ESPN, maybe watch a quick show, and then I'm gonna get to it. Then before you know it, you're watching TV for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. Then you're locked. You know what? I'm going to watch the end of the game. I'm going to do it. The end of the game comes. You know what? I'm a little tired. I'm going to put it off to tomorrow. This starts to carry on and linger from tomorrow to the next day. The next day becomes next week. The next week becomes next month, etc. I'm trying to tell you people, that is a common problem for a lot of people of why they don't progress in their path is because they're not consistent at what they do. You must form your own level of consistency based on your needs, not on the needs of others. Don't think getting in some system, some dogma, or belonging to some group or organization and following their guidelines is going to always work for you all the time, because it may not work with your schedule, your lifestyle. And you might find it actually makes matters worse. The only work for you is the path and the system you create, because who knows better what you need for yourself than you? Nobody can tell you that. Nobody can show you that unless they're walking in your shoes and can think your thoughts and feel what you feel. And they can't. And that's why this tapping into those awareness levels that can give you those answers. You're not going to get everything in a book. I keep telling people that. It's great you read all these books. Great, you got all this information you remembered. And a lot of people like to do that shit because they want to look intelligent. They want to have a conversation, and most people want to just impress people with what they know. As I said, in this day and time and age, with the internet and all the access we have to information now, they ain't shit on that level you can really share with anybody that they can't really dig up for themselves. But what you can dig up for yourself is how you need to do it for yourself. How do you figure out how to do it for yourself? As we said before, knowledge of self, shadow work, understanding the real you, doing the work that unlocks the real you, not the illusionary you, not the illusionary self, not the false things you built up about yourself, the false persona that you want people to see you as, the image project that you want people to see you as, but that's not really you. You have to strip all that shit away and then deal with, the trauma, be they mental, psychological, physical. You have to deal with those issues you have, or your shortcomings, your failures. That's the key. And who knows your failures? If you have a bad temper, that could be something that's prevented. So how do you reintegrate that into your path? How can anger be reintegrated in a positive way? Well, the same passion and power you put behind anger when you get mad over some stupid shit, put that same power and energy into mastering your time and manipulating time and getting that aggression. And that's why I said all energy is productive. Stop telling people to tell you that it's not. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Look, I have to quote something DMX said. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. DMX shot an interview he recently did. Those that are familiar with the rapper DMX, we know his history. We know he's and most of it by his fault. He's done some dumb shit. But he said something profound in that interview. You can pull it up. It's the last interview he did. Just Google DMX, a recent interview. He said, who the fuck wants to be happy all the time? And I stopped and I said, wow. A lot of people are going to perceive that as a negative statement. He said, who the fuck wants to be happy all the time? That's a bunch of bullshit. That's not reality. And he explained why. Because sometimes the core essence of you needs to project some of that emotion. And he said he did that through his music. And he said, if I'm riding to a song and it's bringing out that aggression in me and I'm able to express it, that's my form of release. So he was able to take that via music and channel it on that route. What some would look at on the surface, back to what I was saying earlier about perception, what some would look at on the surface as negative in hearing that statement, because they're this happy-go-lucky illusionary person that think if this world is about kumbaya, holding hands and skipping naked through Grace Fields, and I love you, you love me, and we must come together as one. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. And like he said, but look, I would say anybody that's too happy and everything is peachy keen all the time, that's usually some type of disharmony or some insecurity issue they're suffering from. You understand? This is the whole point. So like I said, when I heard that statement, I said, wow, that's interesting. Who the fuck wants to be happy all the time? Right? Because then you would be suppressing the other aspects that make up your personality. We all have that darker side. We all have some form of rage and anger in us. We all have some form within us. The point is, it's not to completely suppress it. It's not to let it devour you. When it consumes you because you have no control over it, then it can be something detrimental in your path. This path shows you how to take rage via your what? And you're doing missions, right? supposed to put your passion and your energy in your invocational work when you're doing ritualistic work. So you could take that same anger and fiery emotion and put it in ritualistic work. And that's going to enhance the outcome and the results. We also call it in Egyptian Heka or black magic performative utterance, right? That's what the power of words and how those words are uttered or invocated shows the effectiveness of the magician or the adept that's carrying out, per se, the invocation, he or she. So this is what this path. Oh, my son, you must suppress all that. Do not be angry. Angry is a bad emotion. Do not hate. Hate can be a good emotion. You say, what are you talking about, Benita? You're crazy. You can hate it. Right? Is it bad to say I hate this toothache because of the way it makes me feel? No. I hate pedophiles because of what they do to innocent children. See, that same emotion that we're taught on the surface is bad. All hate is bad. You understand? If all hate is bad, so you're telling me I'm wrong if I hate a pedophile? Hell no, I'm not wrong. You know why I hate a pedophile? I got it. And it reflects, if I did some shit like that to my children, I wouldn't even be able to describe in words here how that would turn out. So that type of hate is transitioned into a form of protection for the adept, because remember, step one for the adept is protecting and controlling and mastering their immediate surroundings and environment. You can't control what's outside, but you can facilitate what comes into your environment via from the outside. If you don't understand this path, that'll never make sense to you. For those that are on the path, they know that makes complete sense. The thing is, you could take any of those emotions or energies that people label as negative, right? And pass off as something bad. Jealousy. Oh, jealousy is a bad thing. You shouldn't be jealous. Jealousy will consume you. It's one of the cardinals. But can't I be jealous and envious somebody and use that jealous and envy? Say I look at somebody and say, damn, jealous of somebody, not in a way where you hate on them, like, damn, they're doing good for themselves. I'm kind of jealous of them or what they got. But not like to the point where you're going to go out of your way to wish bad upon them or do bad upon them. You look at that and you say, damn, I'm jealous of them. Shit, if they could do it, I'm going to motivate my ass to do it. I could do that shit. So now you took that jealousy that was something bad, and now that jealousy has motivated you to be productive. This is why I say on this path, banishing. I don't know. If you utilize that, that's your business. That's high magic. I don't mess with that nonsense. That's all that Kabbalah, mysticism, Hebrew mysticism, doing the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram. I don't do none of that stuff. I'm not trying to destroy any energy. Now, the difference between doing that and what we like to do here, even when we do our ritualistic work, we do what we call casting a hermetic circle. And when you cast where you're working your ritual space, you're locking in all of that energy. You're not banishing it. You're not destroying it. Matter of fact, when you're casting the hermetic circle, you're calling light and darkness, the triad of light and darkness. Who's the triad? Usir, or Osiris, Aset, and Heru, right? And then you're calling upon the triad of darkness, which is Anpu, Sekhmet, and Set. Okay? Now, there's more to it when you go into the trillion points. What you're doing is you're calling upon the adept or the sorcerer realizes they need both of those energies to be in harmony. You need the darker, what some would classify as the darker energies, and the lighter energy. So contrary to belief, people think, oh, everybody that's on this path that works black magic occult, they just work with dark and evil demonic shit. No, that's your interpretation of it. That's not true. What a black adept understands, he or she, they know how to master and harmony with both of those energies. What do you think that image of the one-bodied, two heads of Set and Heru represents? Who stands at the ninth gate in the journey of Ra through the underworld? Who gave Ra the ability to master a perpetual chaos? Okay? There's science behind that, people. That was Set. And Set Heru stands at the ninth gate. When you read the Book of Gates, go back and read it. What that journey is trying to show you, that's you. As the practitioner, the adept, that's you going through your journey, right? It shows you what you encounter when you go into the deep inner abyss of your subconscious mind. Ra represents us on the journey in that story.
because we all thought we had it figured out until we encountered our real self. And then as you see with the gate, he can't get past the coiled serpent of Pep. He can't do it. He needs the assistance by the guardians of the gate, as it says in the book of Gates. Go read it. Not until he gets later in his journey, as he starts to acquire the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding, the second time he encounters a Pep, he doesn't need any assistance. He's able to get through the gate. What does that represent? What does that mean? Because what it means now is he has the awareness to master his chaos, right? He learned that via Set, his son. Because Set basically came to him and said, Pop, you're doing it all wrong. You got it all twisted. You got it all fucked up. Get out the way. Let a pro show you how to do this. Yeah, you my pop, no disrespect, but you ain't doing this shit right. Let me show you how it's done. And then we read the story how he's able to keep at bay, destroying, but knowing he will resurrect in the morning. As a snake sheds its skin, it generates new skin. What does that mean to us as the adepts? Once we master and make order out of our personal chaos, we know over the horizon chaos will come again. But guess what? We are now better equipped to deal with that chaos. So when problems start coming now, we can deal with the shit because we're prepared. We have the tools, the artillery, right? I told you, a Pep comes to you in the late hours of the night to the early morning. When you can't get to sleep at night and you're worrying about bills, family problems, issues at work or at your business, that's the Pep energy coming to you. That's the chaos seeking you out. And that's when a Pep comes. Get into the psyche of the mind at the late hours. That's why, as the story records, Ra stayed up from the night hours till dawn, fighting, trying to keep a Pep at bay. That represents you as the adept, your inner conflicts, your issues, your own chaos. This is what the story represents. See, this path shows you how to take those stories and apply it to yourself. So now I can take that story and I can learn from it. Rather than look at it like some people look at the coming forth by day, the pyramid text, the book of Gates. They look at it like it's some Bible. It's not. It's showing the journey of the adept. When you read the coming forth by day, it's a book of spells and magic. I don't know why people who, in there, got the 247 negative confessions. Did you know, brother, that the 10 commandments from the... Who gives a shit about that? Yeah, we know they plagiarized that shit. We know there's a lot of stuff in the Bible plagiarized. Who cares? But how is that going to help us in 2019 moving forward? It's a nice little conversation piece. It's great knowledge to have to an extent, but I'm looking beyond bigger and better things. That's not going to really do nothing. Right now, I know that and then what. But that story represents you and how you master your chaos. A sorcerer is always in control and takes their chaos, makes order out of it, and is able to reintegrate it. So I could take jealousy, anger, rage, hate, and I can flip the script on them and make them productive and reintegrate that into my path to help me. Now, rage can be a great thing when you need to power yourself up. If I'm doing a destructive ritual where I'm trying to destroy something about myself, whether it's a bad habit, maybe I suck at spending money. So I want to tap into that rage. So when I'm doing the ritual, I want to apply that rage to that area of path that I'm trying to repair. So now something, again, that's labeled as bad, I've now flipped the script. That's why I said it's all about perception. Go back and read your 7 Hermetic Principles. A sorcerer should definitely understand that. And not understand it, should master it. Because the mindset and the approach of what the principles are trying to show you is how you should approach your ritualistic work. Okay? That's the point. So we got to get out of this mindset, right and wrong, good and bad. It's perception. Okay? You don't have to agree with that or not. I couldn't care the reality. Because where people get their feathers ruffled, because if they say something that they say is truth or right, and then you disagree or have a different opinion, now they get all in their personal feelings. Okay? That has to be tossed aside on this path. That's irrelevant. When you're doing greater workings of magic, black magic per se, that stuff's got to go out. It doesn't exist. And if you really you know what I'm talking about. If you're confused and you don't understand what I'm saying, then it's not for you. You're not supposed to. You won't. until you get to that point. Okay? And then don't confuse your personal morals and attribute them to everybody else. Okay? I'll give you an example. And I'm not talking about basic things. Okay? As I said earlier, common sense. You know, protect the children, respect your elders. That's basic common sense. That's just normal morals that should always be there. Okay? That's my opinion, at least. You don't have to agree with that. But I'm not talking about that type of morals. Let me give you an example. This might sound funny, but I got to go extreme. Maybe you're a female that likes to have your feet dipped in chocolate milk and hot sauce and have somebody lick it off. To somebody else, that might seem like that's crazy, that's wacky, oh, that's gross. But that's your personal opinion. That's against your personal morals, right? Maybe you're not in line with the concept of an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth, right? Maybe that's against your personal morals, because on one hand, the religious or the spiritual person say killing is wrong, but on the other hand, their Bible condones killing, right? Their God condones killing when it's okay for his benefit. I'm not killed, but it's okay to kill in war and defending religion, right? This example to show you morals, perspective. I've used this example a few times in the past. If you haven't heard it, again, real quick. Say you have a neighborhood drug dealer that's in your neighborhood selling dope, killing innocent women and children, okay? Poison in the community. People dropping like flies. And you know this dude is selling dope. Now, if somebody took it upon themselves, I'm going to be clear on how I'm explaining this. I'm not trying to put anything out there or tell anybody to do anything, but I'm using this as an example. If somebody stepped up and took that drug dealer out and killed him, okay? Is that right or wrong? Now, I know that would open a shitstorm of conversation. Well, it's wrong because, you know, two wrongs don't make a right and you shouldn't kill nobody. And then the other person will say, but feeding that poison and killing people. So we would have this argument. In one sense, it's right. In one sense, it's wrong. It's not about either. It's personal. It's perception. It's about standing your ground and standing. You know, those saying, if you don't stand for something, you don't stand for anything. My thing is, I couldn't give a shit if a drug dealer got taken out. That would be a good thing to me. And I'm not shy in saying that, because if people are being poisoned by it, this shit is irrelevant to me. When you try to play too liberal and straddle the fence, well, you want to be politically correct and liberal all the time, that's the wrong way. You say, well, that's vengeance and justice. Call it what you want. I say it's called taking care of a problem that needs to be taken care of. Okay? That's it. I couldn't care. It's a matter of perception. So the moral thing has to go out the window. It's like people that do destructive magic. If you're doing destructive magic, if you're working curses, you're doing something against something or somebody, if after you're done, you start feeling pity or sympathy, you just destroyed the work you did. That work is not for you. Don't do it. Don't fuck with it. Because it's going to come back now to bite you in the ass. I'm saying these things because this is the reality of this path. And even when you get into Egypt and nobody talks about it, there was a lot, when you read the Coming Forth by Day, there's a lot of destructive work in there. Okay? When it came to destroying enemies via Heka and black magic in ancient Egypt, they had no mercy for who it was being directed to. And if you don't have that ability, that type of work, and that's one aspect of this path, one of many, that type of work is not for you. Leave that shit alone. Stop fucking with it. I get people all the time, it kills me. Call me up, yeah, I want to do work on somebody because they did this to me. When you're cool, let me say this, and I'm not going to stay on this too long because I don't like to talk about things like this openly, but let me say this real quick. When you're contacting, and me and actually Bokor Rodney Coleman had talked about this on one of the shows. When you're contacting a black magician to do spiritual, let me make this clear. The black magician doesn't give a fuck. It has not. They're not emotionally involved in it like you're involved in it. He or she does not care. They have a skill, and they use that skill. If the person that has hired them or used or compensated them to do it, they're not emotionally invested, because once the work is done. It's done. It's out of their hands. There's principles that govern shit when working in that methodology that people don't understand. But when you start with the empathy and the sympathy and not sure of should I or should I have not, it's out of hand. Look, the work has been put out there. It's done. There's nothing you can do to reverse that. Okay? The point being is, be sure when you're setting out to do things like that. Don't be on the fence. Don't straddle, because that aspect or that type of work is not for everybody. I'm just calling it for what it is. But the point I'm trying to make, again, with the perception thing and the morals, I'm bringing all these things up because all those things I just said, the empathy, the sympathy, the right or wrong, that doesn't align with my personal morals. I think, I this, all that shit has to be tossed to the side. The only thing that needs to be focused on when you're carrying out a greater black magical working is the task at hand. And nothing should interfere with that, regardless of what that may be. And if you can't discipline yourself to put those things aside, with the fluffy stuff, safe stuff, do the things that are within your parameters, that are going to be safe for you. As I said before, look, I've talked about it many times. It's not a path for everybody, especially when you start working with the more darker, intense energy, working with the kleptothic realm. Everybody thinks they're ready for that shit. Yeah, I want to work with the kleptothic demons. And then when they get to the Citra Aqua, they start, when Lilith reaches in and yanks your ass to the other side because you asked for it, you're not prepared. And you're like, fuck, what did I opened up? Pandora's fucking, what energy did I just fuck with? And then all shit can happen that you probably don't want to happen. You must embrace that. When you start tapping in to the real essence of who and what you are, you must go to the dark side to understand. As the old adage goes, or the old saying goes, one must go into the dark to do the work of the light. What is the work of the light? The light represents the intellect. To a Luciferian, Lucifer, the light is symbolic of knowledge, intellect. The light that the Luciferian seeks is knowledge. We're constantly trying to seek knowledge. We're always trying to learn and grow. That's what Lucifer represents symbolically. A real Luciferian isn't literally worshiping a character called Lucifer. That's Hollywood. That's mythology. Stop believing that shit. Baphomet, it's a symbol. If you're in the spiritual conspiracies and the conspiracy videos you watch on YouTube, I get this all the time. This makes me laugh. I love this shit. Yeah, well, the Knights of Templar, they used to secretly worship Baphomet in their temples. I love this one. And then the person gets pissed when I say this. Let me ask you a question. Are you a Knights of Templar? No? Okay, it's a Templar. You just said the Knights of Templar worship Baphomet in their temples somewhere. I get this all the time. I love this. Because religious people that come across my videos, they'll see the symbols, they hear, and then their ego, their chest gets all puffed up. They get on there, I call them Bible thumpers or holy art thou, holy crusades. They think they know what they're talking. Usually you just let a fool talk and they usually step in their own dog shit. So then they'll say, no, I'm not a Knights of Templar. Okay, so you're not a Knights of Templar. Where'd you hear that from? Well, I saw this video. Oh, okay, you saw this video. Who did the video? This guy's okay, what was this guy's background? Well, his background was, where did he get it from? Is he a Knights of Templar? Is she a Knight? No. The point I'm being is when you take it back to the source, there is no source. It's just bullshit conspiracies that they read. If you are not a Knights of Templar and you've never been in a Knights of Templar and actually witnessed or participated in that what you say, it's just a theory. There's no truth. And anybody that's part of any esoteric order that deals with the system of Knights of Templar, and I'm telling you this from experience, that's not true. I've heard every crazy story dealing with Masonry to the Order Templi Orientis, which I'm a third degree in that, and none of those stories I've ever seen, heard, witnessed. And I could start basic with Masonry. In Masonry, they worship the devil. Sure, what lodge? What degree? Show me. I've been in a lodge since the 90s. I've never seen any of that stuff. Show me. If that's where'd you get that from? And if you did get that from somewhere, please direct me to the specific lodge where you can confirm that happened. And I guarantee you'll find mythology. Don't send me no video by some guy that used to decent and now he's a born-again Christian. Of course he's going to be one-minded now because he had some traumatic experience that shifted him back into that nonsense. Because anybody that goes into the occult and then was religious, goes into the occult and then goes back into religion, it shows they had some traumatic shift in their consciousness that they couldn't handle. Because I tell you, the people that fuck with this and get spooked out and scared, they usually go back to doing what they used to do even harder. I'm telling you, I could ramble off a bunch of people's names that fit that description. I've seen it all the time. It's always that cat that comes in out the gate. He's so hardcore, left-hand path and occultist. And them the ones that give me a red flag because I say, oh, within a year, they'll be gone. They'll be back doing the same bullshit they're doing. A year or two later, now they super sanctified born-again Christians because they scared the fuck out of themselves. They did some type of work on this path. They opened themselves up to some energy they were not prepared for. And then they want to look at it as they found Jesus. Jesus came to them. When the mind is in trauma, what has been programmed, what it gravitates to and grasps onto and latches onto to make it feel comfortable. It's not that you heard the voice of some monotheistic God that came and said, help. It's just you started to tap into the real you and you got frightened. You got spooked. You thought it was some type of demon or some entity, and the voice was your voice. It wasn't Jesus. It wasn't Abraham. It wasn't Moses. It was the scared part of you, the illusionary you said, you need to get up on out of this shit because this shit ain't for you. And you that as some divine voice and some message, and then you come up with some bullshit story. Oh, I was saved, and no, the only thing you were saved from not having that full encounter with the real you. That's all you were saved from. But guess what? With resistance comes persistence. And you can't run from you forever. That's the whole point. You can hide in religion and spirituality and Buddhism, whatever it is. It's not going to make it disappear. Guess what's going to manifest? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The real you will take substance at some point. And sometimes it takes a certain instance to bring it out. That's all. Bottom line is, that's why I said this path is not for everybody. The work that we do here, why do you think when I holistic workout is by invite only? You have to request an invite because it's not just an open fuck free for all. Anybody just show up. I'm not interested in that because I don't want somebody that's not prepared coming and destroying the energy for everybody else. Anybody that's done work with us down here has had the conversation with me on the phone. Hey, how long you been on the path? What do you know about this? Give me some. I have some understanding of it because if you're coming to be curious, I've watched, curiosity kills the cat. You hear that saying, right? I've watched curiosity kill a lot of people, spiritually and mentally. I've seen people come and I've never seen them again. I've watched one woman leave the ritual a couple of years ago terrified because she was a hotepper. I'll never forget her. She popped up. Oh, you guys having a drumming? Sleeping and drumming, sis. I said, I don't really have time to explain that to you right now. And I suggested to this person, I think it's probably not a good thing you participate in this till you learn more about it. But the hardcore teacher in me decided to teach her ass a lesson. And she basically insisted, no, then this other aspect came over me and said, okay, you know what? Maybe you're here for a reason because you need to see what's not for you. She stayed, long story short, if you saw her afterwards, terrified, left, bolted out of there, didn't say anything to anybody when she left, and we never seen her again. Curiosity can kill the cat. My point is, do your due diligence. This is not a Mickey Mouse club. This is not, I just want to do things because it's the end thing to do. No, I don't operate like that. That's why the people always send me email, why do I have to request an invite? Because I don't know who the fuck you are. I don't know what it is you do or do not know. And two, I got to think about, all of us have to think about us as a unit collectively. I don't want somebody that's not right mentally coming into the cipher and bringing abstract energy that's not conducive for us. Yes, all energy is productive, but in a case like that energy at that moment, at that time, may not be the right energy for that moment. That's the whole point. And that has to be thoroughly understood. That has to be going better.
What's Friday? Tell everybody what Friday is. What is Friday?
My birthday.
What is Friday?
My birthday.
All right. 6 years old on Friday. Gonna be 6. We're having a big party for him. Big party. That energy we don't want in that circle. And not only just that, it's not even just about that. It's also about understanding it might not be the right fit for the right time. And sometimes that's more beneficial to the individual. It would be wrong for us to allow you to do something that maybe you just are not ready for. That's it. It doesn't mean that makes you any lesser. It doesn't make us any better or greater. It just means it's a thing to do at the right time. That's it. That's all it means. So knowledge of self brings the awareness of all of those things. That's something that you must do your due diligence on, and nobody can show you that. That's something you have to do the work on. That's why you should research and study, not just to regurgitate shit, but how can I take the information now and say, apply it? So when we look at those stories, like as I was saying, the Book of Gates, Ra's journey to the underworld, we don't look at that like, look, this shit kills me. I hear people refer to Ra as the Most High. What the fuck is that? Somebody explain that shit to me. The Most High Ra. I was having a conversation with a brother a few years back. I said, hold on, stop, brother. You referring to the Ra as the Most High? Well, I said, that's religion. So that shows me you looking at Ra like you would look at the monotheistic God of the Bible. No, brother. That's not what I mean. Then what is it you mean? Why would you even put that in front of that? Now, it could mean subconsciously and you're just not aware of it. Maybe that's what's going on here. And that's confirmation that people will carry over previous paths and come on this path and try to bring that shit over here. It doesn't work. It's not going to work. Not that it doesn't. It's not going to work. We don't look at it like that. Okay? We don't worship. We embody. I ain't trying to worship Ra. I'm trying to become Ra. There's a difference. Okay? Oh, we're going to have to talk about that Alchemy Azazel goddess. I am a 11th degree Rosicrucian. So I can probably relate to that. Yeah, it's not. It has nothing to do with devil worshiping. You know what? You could probably ask your father this. I'll just throw something out there. I ain't saying nothing. Ask him what the 10th degree is. It's the degree of Illuminati, the illuminated ones. When you get up into the higher degrees of Rosicrucian, you're getting up into Luciferianism and the Illuminati, not the Illuminati on the internet and Jay-Z and Beyonce's and please stop with that shit. That stuff makes me laugh because for people such as myself and probably your father and you, if you were a Columbine, you did a lot of the ritualistic work. You probably had a large participation in the ritualistic work inside the temple. But my whole point, you understand, illuminating or the Illuminati or the illuminated ones. Those illuminated ones are those who seek knowledge and intellect. That's the Illuminatis. That's the 10th degree in the Rosicrucian. Okay? Just stop with the spookiness. So I laugh when I hear about Luciferian and the Illuminati. Hey, yeah, man, the government. Stop, man. People are spooky as hell. Stop that shit. You'll know somebody that's Illuminati. Trust me, you'll know. Real Illuminati, a real Luciferian. You'll know. And that's all I'm going to say is you'll know. I ain't going to get here and get into detail. And don't think, and I'm going to tell you this. One thing I found per se in the Rosicrucian order, especially when you get into the temple degrees, there's people in them higher degrees that you would see out and about every day in the supermarket, here and there. You wouldn't even have no clue. That's what I say. Real elders move in silence. People don't understand that. Real people that work the craft, they carry themselves a certain way. You think I talk about and tell you everything here that I know? That'd be crazy. That's why I say people that get on the internet and talk about how all this power they got and they do all this spiritual work for people and they can do this and that, that's all a bunch of horse shit. Anybody in their right mind would never reveal their strengths, their powers, and let it be known what it is they can and cannot do. I'm going to leave it at that. As I said, you will know an Illuminatus or an illuminated one, not by what they talk about, but by their works. And if you come down, well, those that will be here for the next week, you will see some of that energy when you come to the event on Friday and Saturday night.
And those that are supposed to be there are there for that reason. And it'll be impactful. Trust me when I tell you, the work speaks for itself. We don't need to do public declarations. But anyway, I'm going to get back to that when I get to the questions. Anyway, that's pretty much what I got for that. I'm going to go through your questions now. But we'll come back to that. Interesting that you were a Columbine and now you go by the name of Alchemy, Azazel goddess. That must go over real well. But good stuff, good stuff. All right, so what we got? Got Sister Yvette. All right, peace and greetings. Dion, I don't know if you heard me in the beginning of the video. I don't know if you're still here. I did see your email before I came on. I do appreciate. I know you sent a donation based on something that we did. I appreciate that. I did get it. I just want to acknowledge that. So if you are listening, I will respond to the email. But if you are listening, I just want to let you know. I see you were in here. At least earlier you were. All right. T. Maz, peace. First time listener. Well, greetings, T. Maz. Hopefully, if you're still here, you can get out of this. Again, don't focus on the stuff you may not like or agree with. I don't expect you or any other new listener to agree with everything that we talk about on the channel. That would be ridiculous. But my suggestion to T. Maz and other people here that might be new for the first time, just gravitate, take out of what we discuss on the channel what you can utilize. And if there's nothing here for you, then there's probably not the channel for you. It's the best thing I can tell you. But welcome to T-Miles and any other new listeners that might be here for the first time. Sister Patrick, greetings. I know we'll see you next week. Make sure you guys bring your your necessities. Friday night gonna be off the next Friday, gonna be off the chain. Be ready. Saturday too, but Friday gonna be off the chain. Again, for those that are coming to the event, we are going to have a little meet and greet. We start 9 a.m. sharp on the 25th. 9 a.m. sharp, little coffee and donuts, little meet and greet. Hello, how you doing? I'm such and such, all that good shit. And then we get straight to work. Also, for those that are coming, feel free. The place where we are doing it, we do have a refrigerator there. There's a microwave. If you would like to bring your own personal stuff, there is room for you there. I meant to put that out there in the emails for those that registered for the event. So feel free, but we will have water there. There is water there, bottled and water from the cooler. So you don't have to bring water, but if you have any other side items that you would like to bring. We do break for lunch. If you are on a strict diet and you got your own and you want to bring something that needs to be refrigerated, feel free to bring that. We have a couple of good spots which are right around the corner from the place we're having the event. Like we did last year, we'll break for out there. We just grab what we got to get, come back, and keep it moving, keep it flowing. But I just want to put that out there. There will be, we do have a microwave and a refrigerator. All right, what else we got? All right, so peace and greetings to everybody. If I didn't greet you, Tia Aikens, Brother Duma, Blade of Astara, Brother Tizza, aka Trident 72. Peace to the Elder God, Angel Figueroa, Elder God of the Black Flame 11. Shout out to the whole Black Flame 11 crew. We'll be having our next meeting, I'm going to say first or second week in November. We'll discuss that further. But shout out to all those in here. I know Pat, Sister Patra, and anybody else here in the Black Flame 11. Peace to Ichigo, Uzumaki, peace, Kion 11, and the Oversoul. Brother Mandela Bourne, Sister Tanisha. All right. All right, let's look for some questions. Any questions? Hold on, this thing skipped on me. 1 second. Let that beep. Just give me 1 second. Just gotta send a text to somebody real quick. All right. Hold on. I have to plug this other tablet in. It's beeping. Hold on one second. All right. I'm gonna put my damn glasses on because I can't see it and keep looking at the light from this thing. All right. Let's look for some questions now. Find my spot here. All right, so Sasha Markley, I'd like to hear your opinion about Chernobog. I don't know if that's the same as Shimobog. I know it could be spelled a couple different ways. I don't know much about it. I know I believe it has origins. It's a Slavic deity. It's some type of black demon god. But again, I'm not going to speak. I don't really know much about it, but I know it's one of the darker gods or energies that one can work with on this path. So honestly, I don't know much about it. I don't really work too much with that particular archetype. So that's kind of basically what little I do know about it. How many lines? A septet. Now, depends, just like any other Egyptian archetype of deity, and I could even use Aset for an example. Most people on the surface work with the lighter side when it comes to the material. And as we know, Aset has a sorceress side. Same thing, depends on what aspect that you utilize and work with the septet. Now, septet can be utilized in road clearing work if you want to use it for that. But also when you correlate it to the star constellations, if that's also what you're referring to. Cyrus constellation and all that, or if you're talking about the actual deity, I'm not sure, maybe you'll put something down there. But if you're talking about the Cyrus star constellation, it depends when you're saying, what do I think about it in reference to what? But it looks like, you're saying her, the deity, septet. Okay. Yeah. It does tie into the dog star constellation. But again, another feminine energy. As I mentioned some earlier, Sekhmet, Kali, Lilith. Now, remember, a lot of these deities and archetypes, male or female, a lot of them, you can synchronize them and see the similarities in other paths. So whether it's septet, whether it's taking an aspect of Aset, Lilith, usually a lot of these cultures, they served a similar purpose, but as they got passed down from culture to culture, I've said this many times before, they adjust. To their particular culture or spiritual system. All right. Hold on one second. Sorry. All right. Jack text me. Anyway. But yeah, as I was saying, you'll see a lot of synchronization with these, what Saptet would represent in ancient Egypt. You can see even Nama, when you look at the sister of Lilith, you'll see functioning some similarities as far as when you're looking at it from a sorcery, magic, black magical perspective. Septet also had a connection with Aset or Isis. What connection with Aset or Isis? Remember, we're always presented with Aset or Isis just as, yeah, she's the mother goddess, and that's true. All that stuff is true. it's always this naturing mother and motherly and feminine and Mother Earth, and that's true. But nobody ever talks about the dark sorceress side of those two deities. And they are very dark and sorcerous in nature, if you do the research. So as far as Septet's concerned, yes, if you're working with Septet from a perspective for transformation, change, and growth, yes, you can get into a whole connection with the Sirius star constellation, Sahu, and all that. But that's symbolic of her hitting mysteries, her hitting magic. That shows the power that she's connected. When it talked about, when I was reading the excerpt from the Witches, written by Colin Wilson, remember it was talking about bridging the harmony and the gap and how to work with the physical and the spiritual abode. Well, you can use Septet as a bridge to connect the harmony and design rituals created for that to create the harmony between both of those. Well, she's one of many anyway. All right. What else we got? Okay. Yeah. If anybody, Lovey Davis, I'm going to put the call-in number if anybody wants to call in. And I'll keep going through the chat. That's the call-in number right there, 561-962-1137 if somebody wants to call in. We haven't done that in a while. All right. What else we got here? Callie truly paves the way. This ritual spirit, amazing things to happen in oneself, but she does not play. Prepare to be transformed in the sense of the word. Self-explanatory, true indeed. Okay, Raven put in the conference next week, 25th to the 27th. Ritual spirit. Lilith did not respond to me the first time I tried to summon the energy, and that happens a lot. And Lilith doesn't just respond to anybody or anything. She can be very complicated. We're going to talk about that. That's going to be one of the focuses on the Lilith class that I'll be doing on November 2nd. It's a private class because we'll be getting a little bit more graphic and detailed, how to work with sigils, blood magic, sex magic, invocations, ritualistic practices and work. Stuff I just don't like, I just don't do all. That's just, to me, you don't just do that openly because that's not for everybody. But we'll talk about those things, and that is true. And that's why I find it funny where, you get all these people that say, oh, everything with Lilith is sexual, and it's beyond that. Lilith creates a desire and a lust in the individual for knowledge and wisdom, not just physical lust. That's one of the many small aspects. An individual that's really connected to Lilith and Lilith's energy is the individual that's seeking wisdom and growing in that wisdom and having the spiritual experiences and getting the results. That's somebody that's working with Lilith and going through transformative change in their life on all levels. That's somebody that's working with Lilith. Not just, you get these just vain females. I work with Lilith, and I had one female send me an email. I work with Lilith, and everywhere I go, men are attracted to me. What the fuck does that mean? Like, that's your great experience working with Lilith, then that's not working with Lilith. I don't know what the fuck that is. Maybe it's because you were wearing some tight clothes. Maybe that's what it was. All right, what else we got here? Blade of Astareth says, Astareth was my first connection I made along the left-hand path. She's an excellent initiator for people who seek to break in Astareth. That's a good point. Yes, you can look in that area. That would be a good archetype to begin with. What else we got? Yeah, Raven, a reminder, hit the like button, please. If you hit the like button, reason for that is it expands and broadens the channel. It gets it out to more people. I didn't know that, as I said. That's something that Raven had brought to my attention and other people. Hit the like button. It helps the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the notification bell if you would like to get notifications of anytime I upload a video, go live. Check out social media platforms, Primordial Chaos on Instagram, Primordial Chaos on Facebook. Again, might as well just throw these out there real quick before we move on. We got the conference at the end of the month, Journey to Black Adept Conference number 2, October 25th to the 27th. If you're interested in coming to that, if you're interested in a consultation or a reading, send me your days and times you're available, email me, and the time zone you live in. And if you are interested in signing up for the Lilith class, send me an email. That class is on November 2nd, 3 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Send me an email and I will give you the information on any of the aforementioned things. The email's in the description box of the videos. It's khnum19@gmail.com. That's next. What else we got? All right. So this question was asked earlier by Ans or Eons. I'm not sure. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. Do you have a God energy to help you, or you can do it by yourself? You do it by yourself. You access the God energy. So it's a combination of both. Because remember, when you're working with the gods and the goddesses, you're activating a portion of your psyche that embodies those energies that they represent. So in essence, it's a combination of both, but it's activated within, not without. If that's the question you were asking. I don't know if you were asking it from again, I'm just saying, I don't know if you were asking it from a person of faith and belief. If you're saying, do we believe there's some higher power outside of ourselves that we depend on for that? Absolutely not. Do we believe that there are spirits, energies, and deities when dealing with prana in the astral realm? And when you leave outside a person, place, or thing, you connect and encounter these energies because in essence, they are the subtle makeup. I talked about a whole thing in one of the classes, the subtle body and working with the chakras. People would understand that. And remember, the astral realm is only the doorway or the gateway to a plethora of realms. Okay? It doesn't stop at the astral realm. So do we believe we encounter some of those energies there? For lack of a better word, most definitely. But it starts within. You must activate that within. No, we don't believe there's some old man sitting on a throne in the sky with a long white beard and a robe judging everybody. I'm not saying you were asking that. Maybe you were not. I'm just addressing it. But yes, it's a combination of both. Hopefully that helps you. And I guess Blade Ashtar has followed up. You have the God energy in you, so you can do it for yourself. Most definitely. All right. What else we got? I guess cooking up some dinner, huh? Yeah, it's a good point by Ames. When I was talking about perception earlier and multiple people viewing or looking at the same thing but having different perspectives, he's referencing, if you guys didn't see that earlier, the movie Vantage Point in 2008, one event viewed from different angles by different people. Yeah, check that out. Oh shit, the salmon and green beans salad. Okay, I see how many lines. I'm very much into godhood. It's great. Okay, so it was a good question then. Yeah, then you definitely can relate and understand. I just saw that comment later down. Cool. Ichigo Uzumaki facts got so much shadow work. Yeah, shadow work is something that you'll do consistently. It's never ending. Why? Because you're always trying to improve yourself. You know, you're always trying to turn your weaknesses into strengths. That's what shadow work essentially is. We don't look at our faults, our shortcomings, and our weaknesses as complete failure. That's not what we do on this path. We look at it as an opportunity. What opportunity? An opportunity to better ourselves. But sometimes people struggle with identifying and admitting. It's like Alcoholics Anonymous, right? What's the first thing they tell you in the program? You must first admit you have a problem. So some people, they can't. Not again, suppressing the ego completely. That's illusionary too. Because part of your ego is what protects you. Part of your ego is what gives you wisdom. But there's a part of your ego that can consume you. But some people have too much of an ego to admit that they have issues or problems. And the person that says they do not have any issues or problems, well, that was their first fault, thinking they have no issues or problems. So that's it. It starts from there. Once you get to that point, it starts to branch out and grow. Good comment. I think that was by Alchemy, Azazel Goddess. I think that was earlier when I was talking about time. She says they are missing the passion, but once people see results, they will be hooked. The more you see the results, the more you'll be drawn in. It's super damn awesome. I agree. Then Trident 72 followed it up. When you make time for what's truly important to you, that is so. Look, think about it. Think about how you find time for the things you like, and that, man, you hit it dead on, right? Just think about the sports fan. And I'm saying these things because I got to connect with things I have the experience with. I'm guilty of that with sports. I'm a huge sports fan. I watch all of the four major sports. A huge football fan, basketball, football, and especially hockey. Love hockey. I'm guilty of, if I could find time to watch a game for 2 or 3 hours and find the time anytime I need, don't tell me I can't utilize those same 2 or 3 hours to find time to do personal work for myself. That is probably one of the most important statements that Trident 72 said. You make time for what's truly important to you or what you like. I'm going to add, or what you like. And that's true. So use that same thought process, motivation, and energy, and now apply it to what you need. Because remember, just because you like something may not be what you need. And that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes. We struggle with that. Right? Then Trident 72 followed up, you make time for what's truly important to you. And then he followed up with, like Nike, let's just do it. Let's do it. The all is mind. You are the mind. First Hermetic principle of Tahuti. All is mental. Mental is all. The universe is mental. That's why it starts within. It's all an inward journey out, not an outward journey in. To understand what the God concept is, you must understand yourself first. So you'll find your work with deities and gods and goddesses are more fluid when you understand yourself, because you will see a reflection of them in you as opposed to trying to search for that outside of yourself. You'll see the connection. You will find all of us have an asset, Heru, Set, Ample, Sekhmet, Kali, Lilith, Lucifer, Azazel energy, just dormant within us. It's about learning how to activate it when need be. All is mental. The universe, all is mental, all is mind. Any way you put it, the universe is mental. And that's the key. You tap into those mysteries via the subjective mind. So whether you call it the spiritual abode, the heavenly abode, the realm of spirits and gods, goddesses, and demons, you tap into that via your subjective realm. Okay? Just think how they were able to perpetrate a mythology thousands of years ago that is still prominent today amongst some people. And they created a whole mythology, and it's become and evolved into 3 of the biggest religions in the world. Even though there's so many flaws in it, and we know Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, which essentially all the same fucking religion. They just have different fractions and different things they disagree on. It's all the same shit. Their God is basically a bloodthirsty killer, a separator, a warmonger, and a violent terrorist. That's basically the components of those 3 religions. All right. What else we got? Teach yourself. True indeed. Yonkers is bonkers. 20 years in the making. Okay. You're from Yonkers. I mean, that's probably growing up, spending my whole life in New York. I mean, I grew up in Queens. Never really went to Yonkers too much. Probably been there 2 or 3 times. There in Staten Island are probably 2 places I rarely ever ventured out to. I mean, as far as all the other boroughs, I mean, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Long Island. Those are the places that Queens and Long Island is probably where I spent most of my time in East New York. A lot of people in East New York, Brooklyn, Bushwick, Fulton, Atlantic, the whole area now by the Barclays Center. Flatbush, Eastern Parkway. That's kind of the areas that I'm quite familiar with. But Yonkers and Staten Island, no. But I seen to an extent, yeah, Yonkers can be bonkers. And I know that was probably early in reference to when I was talking about the DMX video, which I think if you have not seen it, people should check it out. When I looked at that video again, let me just touch on something on that real quick. Sometimes a man has to go through, or a female has to go through some serious shit to really come to the realization of who they really are. And unfortunately, that's what DMX had to do. I say that because when I watched that interview, that's what resonated from DMX when I watched that interview. you could see it was a man that finally has come to the grips and realization from what he's been through, and now has looked at it as learning experiences, hardcore life learning experiences. Because when he made that statement, who the fuck wants to be happy all the time? That's not realistic. Think about that for a minute. Think about it before you jump the gun and scrutinize it. And I would suggest you go listen to it. Good stuff. Omni Meons. All right, so classes. I run individual ones throughout the years. Like we have the one you probably heard me mention a few times, the one on November 2nd with Lilith. But then twice a year, I do a full 6 to 8 week full-blown session, and it covers a variance of topics. That happens in January and June. So my next full online session, 6 to 8 week class, will begin in mid to late January. And then the second one will be July. I do them in January and July twice a year. And in between, I do individual ones, like the one we have coming up on the 2nd, on Lilith. That's coming up on the 2nd. But you could always listen for the announcement. I post everything as far as upcoming classes and events. I'll mention them here. They're in the community section here on YouTube. And they're also always all updates, events, and things that we have going on. The Instagram page is the best place to stay up to date on. Primordial Chaos on Instagram. Any announcements for all those things, I'm constantly updating on there. And you can find everything on there that you need to know. So you'll see we're in October going into November. I'll probably really start pumping that next month. I'll start putting that out there so people can sign up for that in January. Once the Lilith class is over, I will go ahead and have the whole curriculum for the January online session that'll run for a couple of months, and then people can start sending emails to sign up for that. Okay. Blade of Astar, fury is the force for change on your path. It is the apologize for that yawning. Proverbial last straw before you turn your world to stasis upside down and fix those issues. It's funny you use the word stasis because in the ritual of the 9 angles in the Satanic Ritual book, the Satanic Companion to the Bible, people should study the 9 angles. The 6th angle represents a stasis. What does that represent to the adept? Well, we all get to a point, a stasis on our path, but that can be utilized. People might look at that as something negative, but in that stasis, stillness, and some refer to it as a form of death, there's regeneration, growth, and renewal. So there's many different ways to look at stasis, and that's a good point. And in that stasis, you will also get to know the real you, okay? Yeah, good point. Patra typed in earlier, that's the essence of alchemy, to take a thing and transfer it into something else. Right, that's what my mother used to say, the same phrase. That's what Granny meant when she said, take them lemons and make lemonade. That's it. Is this duality is a must, both energies, all energies, whether we call it the yin, the yang, the duality, the light or the darker, they all serve a purpose. But look at it also like this. When we talk about degrees and vibrations, think about this. When you look at temperature, right, at what point does it go from hot to cold, right? They say when it gets to 32 degrees Celsius below, it becomes frozen, right? Correlate that to Masonic jargon or terminology. They say when you become 32nd degree Mason, you're frozen, because not everybody's you can't just voluntarily go to the 33rd degree. You have to be invited. So they say you're frozen. So if you're a 32nd degree Scottish Rite, they say, bro, what's your degree? 32nd. You're frozen. You're frozen. If you haven't been asked to come amongst the 33rd degree, right? I say that when we correlate it to actual temperature, at what point we don't see it go from cold to hot, but we sense it, we feel it, right? And when we talk about duality in both energies, though it's a constant continuum, that concept of the thermometer and energy changing from cold to hot Though we don't see it, we feel it, we perceive it, and it's a continuum. It's likened to continuity. It's likened to what Leviathan represents, the principle of continuity in existence. And just as quick as it goes from hot to cold, it can go from cold to hot. That's the continuity of the existence. It's like the weather. One day it could be hot, one day it could be cold. Seasons change, but they keep evolving. It's a continuity. There's a science in that, people. If we talk about the micro and the macrocosm, apply that shit to yourself and your path and the energies that we're talking about, right? Yeah, I mean, I feel you, Ichigo Uzumaki, as far as the Bible and the Quran being plagiarized. That's a whole nother story. Nikita Tillis, you are late as hell. I don't know what time you came in. That's right, Blade of Astar. You take that weak-minded approach of turning the other cheek, you run out of cheeks. That's a good saying. Alchemy is as a goddess, the Bible is myth, and it's about you, the human. True indeed. It's all allegory. True indeed. All of these books tell a story about not what is happening to you. That's true. And I always say, remember, the ancestors and the elders were trying to they were trying to externalize what takes place within. And they characterize it by creating characters, events, the list goes on and on. And it is. You can like we can use, for an example, the David and Goliath story, right? The David and Goliath story. Rather than argue over there's so many flaws if you look at it literally. There's just so many factual flaws. But if you looked at it as trying to conquer your weaknesses, you have the small David and the big giant Goliath. How can we take that story and utilize it on our path? Well, Goliath represents the chaos that we need to make order out of. Goliath represents the bully that tries to consume and overcome us. David is a representation of us. And what we need in order to evolve and grow in this path, we have to conquer our weaknesses. I mean, that's one of many different methodologies. Look, I've always said the Bible can be a great metaphorical teacher, but where it becomes nonsense when people are trying to literally argue over this shit, it's comical. Especially a lot of the graphic stuff in the Torah. Because as I said before, nobody can justify to me why God loves the smell of dead animal carcasses offered to him on his altar. He's constantly telling the Israelites to kill animals. He loves dead animal flesh burning. Says the aroma is pleasing to him. I'm just curious of what kind of God that is. And then on one hand, he's telling you he's very human in nature. I have no other gods besides me. I'm a jealous God. Jealousy is a human emotion. How could the creator of the boundless universe, the omnipotent and omniscient, omnipresent God, be jealous? I can't even fathom that. That's a human emotion. And what can he be jealous of if he created everything? It makes absolutely no sense. I mean, that's how you can pick apart when you look at that shit literally. There's so many things there, man. I'm just throwing a couple of quick things out there, but you get the point. Good. Omni-Mans, I like your left-hand path. Best yet, I've been running from it now. I'm really into it. Cool. If I didn't do nothing to you, leave me be. True indeed. All right, what else we got? You stay on top of that shadow work. True indeed. Good point by Blade of Astarth. Yeah. Yeah. When I was talking earlier about people can scare themselves back out of this path and back into where they came from. And that's a good, you're right. They stared into the abyss and it looked back into them. That's right. Now they suddenly born again. They are cowards. I'm telling you, I know a handful of cats and I'm talking about, these were cats that were hardcore on this path. I'm talking about hardcore occult. Had the whole thing down packed, and they did exactly what you said. I run into one of this, but I mean, he's hardcore sanctified, born again, and he unlocked a certain fear. He couldn't deal with it, so now he thinks he's going to Jesus it away. Let's see who we got calling here. Peace and greetings, call. What's your name? Where you calling from? All right, good one. How you doing? What you got for us?
I'm thinking the different Platonic deities or demons and whatnot.
Right.
Goetic.
Mm-hmm.
And also you had mentioned shadow work, which obviously we know on the left-hand path is very important.
Necessity, correct.
So my question is, do you have, because I'm always wanting to like quickly get to the root of things, and sometimes I gotta learn my patience, but do you have like a simple working or method of like overcoming, let's say, if certain weaknesses or fears or insecurities?
Yes.
Something simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, there's a few things you could actually do. Well, when you work with the cleptogram, do you do any work with the Lucifer energy?
With the,
Lucifer energy, any aspects of Lucifer energy you work with?
yeah.
Okay. A great way to overcome that, there's a simple working that you can do. You can either create it yourself, and I can give you a guideline, a book that I can refer you to give you a guideline. Very simple. There's simple invocations activating the eye of Lucifer. And when you activate the Lucifer energy, or as some symbolically call it, activating the eye of Lucifer, whatever fears, struggles, or blockages you have, it'll assist with that. I would suggest you start with simple invocations, as you said. Now, obviously, there's something I want to back up because there's something you said is important. And unfortunately, I've said a lot over the years, patience is the toughest school to master. It is. Trust me when I tell you. And sometimes that can be creating a blockage for you and you're not aware of it. So you have to be careful with that. Well, it's good to be motivated and to want, to get to the core of it. I get that. That's a good thing. But at the same token, it can affect your approach. So I say that to say, don't go into it. You might have to do something consistently a period of time. Because I'm saying this to say, is there one, and I'm sure you know this, I'm just kind of now speaking in general for everybody else listening. Is there one particular thing you can do right out the gate that's going to fix it? No. But are there simple things you can do consistently? Yes. The book I would recommend you get, it's a very book's like 100-something pages, not a complicated, thick book. It deals specifically working with the Lucifer energy for stuff like that and other stuff. It's The Rites of Lucifer by Asenath Mason. I don't know if you have that book. If you don't, you'll see there's a lot of invocations in there working with that. Now, another book I refer you to, or another mantras, which is very simple. For an example, I've had Bal Cadman on the show. He's got a book called Kali Mantra Magic. Mantra Magic, whether it's with Kali or any other archetype, by simply basically getting yourself into a receptive state of mind, basic breathing, relaxing. You could set the mood with candles or however what makes you feel comfortable, and getting into the synchronicity and the harmony of the mantra. Now, obviously doing mantras that are geared and designed to the issue that you're trying to work on. Now, the Kali Mantra Magic book, which the only thing you need to do that simply is an image of Kali, just certain colored candles and incense. It's that basic. And I would look for those, mantras that clear paths. There's a bunch in that book. Long story short, I would start with basic invocations, maybe with the Lucifer energy, and utilizing mantra magic. It's simple, not complicated. It's quick. It's effective. It doesn't take long time to do preparation for it. But at the same note, I would say you're still going to have to exercise a little bit of patience via your consistency, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, brother.
All right. Try it and let me go. Anything else you got?
No, that's it. Appreciate it, brother.
Nah, I appreciate your call. Thank you for calling.
Yep.
All right. All right. If anybody else would like to call, I'm almost at the end of the chat. If anybody else wants to call in, 561-962-1137. It's going to stay on for a few more minutes. Try to get through the rest of this, and that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. All right. So what else we got here? jumped on me. Bear with me, people. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, so back to earlier when Alchemy is as a goddess. True, my dad is a Rosicrucian, and I was a Columbine in the lodge, and I was a child, and I would be the first to say if the Rosicrucian order is of devil worship and laugh my it's comical. There's no type. The Rosicrucian order is an Egyptian mystical alchemy order. If you're into alchemy and the mysteries of alchemy, they get pretty in depth in it. The first level can be a bit boring and mundane, but that's intentional to see if you have the patience to stay with it. The neophyte abode is kind of boring. It really kicks in when you get on the atrium, the later atrium degrees on into the temple degrees. As I said, a lot of those orders I'm still active in. I don't go all the time. I probably go once or twice a year to my Rosicrucian lodge. I usually go right after the holidays and usually maybe in the middle of the year, June. Same thing with OTO, the Masonic Lodge. I may go once a year just to keep my membership active. My brother-in-law, obviously very active in there, worshipful master, 2 terms. But yeah, and you actually, if you were a count, you participated in a lot of the ritualistic work. But there's some good things in it. It has nothing to do with left-hand path. It can assist you on a path to self-mastery to a degree. Some of the stuff in it I've found they're very influenced by Greek mythology and a lot of Greek mystics because they do incorporate a lot of that into the order. But there's a lot of good things you can get out of it. But as far as people saying, "Oh, they do," that's fun shit. I've heard that nonsense too. Comical. What else we got? Greetings. Question: could Kali also represent a great mother energy that's not destructive? Most definitely. Yeah, I mean, that is her chief function. When we say destructive, I want to make this clear with Kali. We don't mean destructive in a bad way, that she creates something detrimental and dangerous to the individual. When we say dangerous, Kali is destructive in the sense she will transform the things about yourself that need to be corrected. That's what we mean when we say destructive. And it can be a little overwhelming for somebody who's not prepared for that. But yes, you don't have to just utilize Kali just for that destructive aspect, even though that's one of her chief operating aspects. That's why you see her depicted, with the separation knife and, the severed heads and the blood dripping from the tongue, because she is a devourer of what? Devourer of destroying those things that need to be destroyed. But you can use her totally, as I said earlier, finances. You can use her to acquire a loved one. You can use her for sex magic. There's a whole other level of functions. And that's why I say some people tend to just focus on what they're familiar with Kali. So most definitely, yes. She can also be used. Now, I find the great mother aspect, yes, because that you'll see some people work with her in that aspect on this path, and people that are not quote unquote left-hand path that work with Kali as that type of great mother goddess and the sense of what she represents. Again, we work with her as a mother goddess on this path because she gives you that tough motherly love, right? She doesn't sugarcoat it. And I always use the metaphor, Kali is the type of teacher where if you can't swim, she'll throw you in the deep end of the pool. That's how she teaches you to swim. It's that tough love, that tough mother love. So yes, she can definitely be used as a great mother energy because she is one of the great mothers of the planet, most definitely. She is a representation of the great mother energy. Let's see what we got here. Greetings, caller. What's your name and where you calling from? Hello.
Yeah, what's up?
What's your name, brother? Where you calling from?
Future. I'm calling from Nevada.
Okay, what you got for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to put out a little message. Maybe it can help some people on their journey.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, when you're on your own path, you follow on your own path, and during your evolution, An important thing that I found out that worked for me is that you got to be completely honest with yourself.
Correct.
You got to, when you come, you got to make sure your intentions are clear, your intentions are pure,
Mm-hmm.
and basically, you can't be afraid to embrace the flaws within yourself,
Big time.
and also you got to embrace the flaws and you got to face them. You can't run from them.
That's right.
So that's a problem a lot of people have. They try to lie to themselves, and they'll try to act like that they're perfect. None of us are perfect.
That's right.
But the thing is, you can't fear. Like when you go on this path, sometimes it won't be easy.
That's right.
Sometimes you'll come across people who will throw you off. They'll hear that you're into the left-hand path and different schools of thought, and they'll try to scare you and tell you that they're evil. But
That's
you
right.
got to follow your own inner compass. You got to follow what you know is right for you.
That's right.
And don't let that kind of stuff throw you off, because you will be tested.
Mm-hmm.
Get tested, and if you're not careful, you can outthink yourself, outsmart yourself, and then that's how you fall off, because you get scared. You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree with everything you just said. And I'm glad you said that. And one of the key things is you will be tested. I'm glad I say that a lot, but the other thing, you have to be honest with yourself, and intent is everything. And that's great advice. And yeah, I mean, not really much I can add to that. I think you pretty much explained that. So that's great information, great suggestions, and hopefully people heard what you just said. Because I think you hit the nail on the head. You got anything else for us?
No, just short and sweet. I think that's very important, and people need to pay attention to that. You have to, what you put in will always come back to you. Not always how you expect, but it'll come back in some way, shape, or form.
True indeed.
So you got to be careful and be mindful of what you're tapping into. That's another important thing.
I agree.
All right.
Appreciate it, brother. I appreciate the call.
No problem, bro.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, excellent advice. I mean, again, not really much can add to that. Self-explanatory. And I've been similar for years. And the testing part, let me just elaborate on that for a quick minute. If you're not being real with yourself, and as the brother said, you will be tested. You will be called out on that. If that's what you say you're about, and if you do open that door and bring that change or something that comes about that you're not ready for, you will be forced to deal with it. So yes, be mindful. Good advice. Be mindful. Be aware. Do your due diligence when you're on this path. So I think the brother gave great advice, and hopefully those that listen to this video after it uploads, man, if you didn't get anything else, take that. And I think that was straight to the point, not complicated, not cutting no corners. He went straight to the point. All right. All right. What else we got? The angel throwing Apollo stuff out there. For greater black magic, arriba nanga, nahis sentimentos. Jack, what's up? I pity the fool. Yo, it's funny. I'll bill with you on that. It's funny you bring up the Mr. T shit. That is crazy. Because I did something. Oh, man. I got to talk to you about that. I pity the fool. Jay Jizzle in the building. There is no mercy. Yeah, and then as a, arriba now. Arriba, naga no hay sentimientos. Yeah, you can't, you put it out there, you put it out there. Yeah, Patra, we got it broken up into 2 days. The main thing is the time. We just got to make sure, we stay pinpoint with the time. I mean, I think we'll be fine. We got pretty much a good system. We're looking at 7, possibly 8 presentations. We're splitting those up in 2 days. We have it coordinated again, as I said before, to get in the morning, do presentations, take a lunch break, finish up, give people time to take a break, go back to the hotel, return within a couple of hours, go into the night work for the rituals. I'm going to have a dinner after that on Friday. similar on Saturday. And then Sunday, we need to all coordinate. I need to see what time you guys are flying out. Sunday will be a little more simplified. We'll have a class. I'll be doing a class on Sunday, and then we'll finish it up with a working after the class. We'll coordinate that last day based on people's schedules. Flying out on Sunday night, or is everybody flying out on Monday? But we'll get that information the first day, Friday, and that'll give us a better way to plan the final day. But either way, everything will be over by late Sunday afternoon, early evening. We'll make sure everything is finished by then, but we'll follow up on that on Friday. But yeah, for those that are coming to the conference, I think right now I miscalculated one person. I think right now we're up to 16 or 17 people is what it's looking like right now. I had another person, and actually, Brother Rashawn called me. He's a possibility. So let's roughly say we're looking at 15 to 20 right now. Could be anywhere in between. Minimum 15, max 20. And that we still have a little bit more time. That might grow to a few more people. So we'll have a nice little group. Won't be overcrowded, and it won't be small, but it'll make it interesting. And the ritual you guys are going to go through on Friday, it's going to be fun. Just be prepared. Be prepared. Be ready. It's time to do work. Stop. All right. Anyway, what else we got? And I got actually this week, as I said, my little man's birthday is Friday. And next week, actually the 26th, but he's big. My oldest son's birthday is on. I got both of my sons' birthdays back to back. So a lot going on this month. We got the conference. This is my favorite time of the year, fall to winter. I love October to December. It's my favorite time of the year for a multitude of reasons. Got football and hockey going on simultaneous. Love hockey, probably more. Got holidays coming up, birthdays. To me, it's my favorite time of the year. It's just there's a lot of good shit going on. I love October to December, my favorite months of the year. Just a lot of shit going on, and then we get together not for the religious aspect of the holidays, but it's a big family thing, man. We get together, good food, kick it, have fun. So I always look forward to this time of the year, and always it's weird because my son's birthday is always it always signifies that time of the year, because I know after that, after the birthdays are gone, you got Halloween and Thanksgiving, and then, we're not spooky on this path. Yeah. Well, you shouldn't celebrate the holidays. Get the fuck out of here. Keep that in that conscious community bullshit. I don't care about that. Don't give me all the history on. You could take any holiday and manipulate it and make it work for you for magic. Ain't nobody in their right mind go into the religious. That's your business. I don't need the whole breakdown on that shit, right? I told you, look, there's two ways to look at that shit. You can look at it. I even always use the example of Disney World. Look at Walt Disney, right? We all know who Walt Disney is. Walt Disney was a fucking genius. Why was Walt Disney a genius? The man's been gone and dead for years, and he created a mythological realm called the Magic Kingdom, and he created a whole bunch of mythological characters that are still impactful to this day. Perception. There's two ways to look at it, but the conscious Hotepper would say, oh, that's indoctrination by the white man. There's two ways you can look at it. This was an individual who tapped into his subjective realm and created a whole nother realm and brought it down here physically to where this day, millions and billions of people a year flock to go to Disney World or Disneyland, to the Magic Kingdom. Okay? So if you don't know now what I was talking about earlier about perception, see, that's how I look at Disney World. Yeah, you can get into all the Eurocentric whitewash. That's if you're looking at it from a conscious Hotepper perspective. But let's look at the magical thing. So my question is, if Walt Disney can do it, anybody can do it. So I'm not hating on Walt Disney, because a man that's been dead and gone for years has characters to this day as we speak that still hold an impact, not just in the United States, worldwide. Okay, because now they got Disney Worlds overseas. It's not getting weaker, it's getting stronger. So you talk about, and I always ask people, when it's your time to go, can you go and transition to your next phase of existence saying
you left a stamp and a mark on this world? Think before you answer that question. Well, I'll tell you what, Walt Disney did. Whether you like him, hate him, agree with it or not. And people are still, by the millions and billions, traveling to the Magic Kingdom. I, per se, ain't a big Walt Disney fan. I'm just using it as an example. There's two ways to look at it. There's the Hotep or conscious way and get all up in your emotions. And then there's the, wow, this dude had a vision. He tapped into his subjective. He had to go into his subjective realm to come up with Pluto and Goofy and Minnie Mouse. And those are real characters to him in his subjective realm. You can't tell him Goofy, Pluto, and Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse aren't real. They're real to him because they exist in his subconscious mind. And the Magic Kingdom and all that shit is real to him, to the point where he brought it here and he's gone and left his mark, and people still crave it. Come on, man. Talk to me about that shit. If you're really woke, brother or sister, talk to me about that if you want to be conscious. I ain't trying to listen to all that angry at the white man stuff. I ain't trying to listen to that nonsense, man. That's a crutch to lean on. That's an excuse so you can sit around justified for being a failure and be caught up in your emotion. Now I got a crutch to lean on. It's called playing the role of the victim. That's for that path. We don't do that on this path. I don't care to. Remember, being a god or a goddess is being responsible for your actions and taking responsibility for your successes and your failures. So talk to me about that. I don't care about that other shit. Matthew, have you ever done work with the god Sobek, and what's good ritual to tap into that energy? Don't do a lot of work with Sobek. Now, you could work with Sobek, the crocodile deity. I mean, you can access Sobek via serpent or kundalini energy. If you were going to do a ritual, let's say individually focusing exclusively on the Sobek energy, I could utilize Sobek if I don't particularly work with him a lot. I've worked with aspects of Sobek and Heka in other ritualistic work, but I would definitely connect it to the serpent or the dragon energy. There's a connection there, and you can customize that to fit how you see fit. I could utilize Sobek if I wanted to create a ritual for chakra work. Raising the serpent energy through the chakras would be a good way to work with Sobek. Matthew, some say there is a connection with Lilith and Pizzazz. I don't really connect them when I work with them. It just depends on what books you're reading and what school of thought the individual comes from. But I have seen in certain circles where they connect those energies ritualistically too. But I personally don't work with them or connect them like that. Smooth the God says, would a primal sorcerer externalize God's demons during ritual for the benefit of the working, but after it's done, acknowledge the God demons as internal aspects self to prevent spooky? Yes, most definitely. To prevent spooking out. Yes, because remember, even when you're creating a ritual, the externalizing of it comes from internal anyway. If you're creating an experience, like for an example, when people say they had an experience and they saw a vision of Tahuti, whatever, or Asset, right? Though it's creating the illusion that it's outside of the self, it's external, yes, visually, that's what you're perceiving. But that had its point of origins internally. Because I always ask a person this, describe what this god or goddess looked like. And usually you're going to describe it basically how it was fed to you, what was stamped inside your subconscious mind. So you gave it life, thought, and form. Now, you also find this very similar to, as I use this example a few times. Look at the Catholic that claims to have seen a apparition or a vision of the Virgin Mary. One thing you will notice that's similar with all these apparitions and visions that people claim to have, they describe a very similar description. Why is that? Because if you were born and raised Catholic and you stayed in Catholicism for most of your life or all of your life, they're constantly stamping the statue, the image, the likeness of this image of the Virgin Mary. So of course, that's what's going to manifest externally because that was what was stamped internally. So it's the same thing on this path. If you're a sorcerer and you're doing a ritual with gods and goddesses, whatever you have up until the moment stamped in the subconscious mind of how you visualize that deity, it could be from a statue that's a representation on your altar, and that's embedded in your subconscious. It could be imagery you saw from a book, or it could be just a dream or a vision or something you saw tapping into your subjective realm. That's how it's going to manifest and create the actual external vision. So it's a good point, yes. So you don't get spooktified. I would think that's a good way to put it in perspective. That's just my opinion. Now, some people work with it completely external. And that, again, I necessarily don't agree with that, but that's just me. But I say again, how do you know? If you should or should not be doing something, if you do it that way and you're getting results, power to you. I say if you get results, you do whatever it is you're doing that's getting you the results, regardless if myself or anybody else agrees with it or not. I can only say that's not how I work with it. I agree with what you said. That's the way we should approach it, and I think that's the more correct and sound and fundamental way. All right? What else we got? Mashara Muhammad says, how do you approach getting rid of the sorcery, looking into your future, manipulating it? Well, I mean, I would need to know more information. Are we talking about jinns? Are we talking about spirits? I mean, you'd have to be a little bit more detailed. So I couldn't really answer that question based on what you have there. I mean, there are ways to deal with energies like that and keep them, and keep them functioning in its correct harmony. Because yes, if something if you've tapped into something that's beyond, you can't control it, it can manipulate against you as opposed to for you. Does Lilith have a connection with the goetic demon Andros, because I see her associated with the owl? Well, I've heard that, because remember, the owl is a nocturnal creature. It has impeccable vision. It can see impeccable in the night. You'll also see that association with La Santísima Muerte, the Holy Death. And there's a synchronization in there, because they say there's a connection, whether it's Lilith or the Holy Death, because I have an owl, actual image of an owl, a separate image of my owl on my Holy Death altar, because the owl can be accessed as a symbol to see things spiritually for what they truly are, meaning to have that clear insight, that clear spiritual vision. So yeah, there's a connection with that in that sense. The name of the author in the movie Aquaman is H.P. Lovecraft. All right. Basically, the Aquaman movie is based around the cult of Cthulhu, right? They did something unique in there. I did a whole video on it. Go into the archive about the end of last year, and I broke down the whole Aquaman movie and the occult. If you haven't seen it and you're interested in Aquaman, I would go watch it. Because when you look at the story, Aquaman was half human, half God. That's a representation of us. We struggle with our mortality. We tend to serve our mortality more and don't accept the divine within us. So Aquaman was a representation of us. That's us in everyday life. We still can't fathom the fact we are God and goddess. And you see that in the Aquaman movie, right? You see the slaying, you see the connection of Leviathan, and you see him now mastering the primordial chaotic energy at the very end of the movie when he takes the trident, which is also a symbol of Lucifer, and activating the eye of Lucifer, and you see him rise out of the water on the great beast Leviathan, right? It's all centered upon the mythology of H.P. Lovecraft. Where does the story take place in the Aquaman movie? In New Hampshire, in the New England area. Where was H.P. Lovecraft from? He was from the New England area. Now, they flashed the book and the scene, and I go in more in depth in the video. I would suggest yourself and others who haven't seen that video, go watch it. There's a scene where he's talking to his father on the pier. And for some reason, they went out of their way to make sure they show the book with H.P. Lovecraft's name on it. So yeah, the maker of the movie was very influenced by the writings of H.P. Lovecraft. You're watching the story of the primordial chaotic energy, Leviathan, and out of that manifested the primordial chaos, which was Tiamat, though they connect the Atlantis aspect to it. And then we are the Aquaman. We are the representation of struggling to embrace the divinity within and serving humanity. I mean, there's so much symbolicism in that movie, but when you get a chance, go in the archives and see if you can find time to watch the video. I go in depth in it. All right. That's a good point by Fallen Grey Wolf. Yes. So if you guys didn't see this, I'm gonna read it. Yes. Are the deities of ancient days through to modern day ones part of the human construct, our emotion, or whatever manifested into existence to help us cope with the fact we are all deities? Yes. Because I've always said from day one, they are a makeup of your psyche. You embody, you have an aspect, whether we're talking about Obatala, Shango, Osiris, Heru, Aset, whatever, all of that resides within the psyche, and it is part of your construct. It is part of your emotions. It does make you. And that's why I've always said from day one, you are the deities and they are you. So when you're activating them and creating that external experience, it doesn't mean they're external. It means you've now tapped in to that aspect of your mind and you have manifested that incarnation, that experience. So yes, it definitely is part of that whole construct or makeup, most definitely. All right, almost done here. Yeah, Trident 72 says he uses those hatred, anger, and emotion. I use them as a tool to transform those aspects of myself I need. Very effective. It is, if you know how to do it. It's very effective. What else we got? I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get through all these, man. It's getting late, but hold on. Yeah, good point by Invaspour. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name. Yeah, so many messages written within our reality if you just pay close attention. Movies, music, nature, science, the clues are all there, but not everyone can clearly see them. I agree. Simulation reality, Cola Williams. The absolute truth about the Creator is truth that not many people would like to know or can handle knowing. No man can have the answers to everything. We aren't supposed to, of course. And that's why we're always seeking knowledge. If we had all the answers, we wouldn't even be having this conversation now. All right, this is a good question by I hope I don't butcher your name, Cicerus. I hope that I said that right. It says, what's good, Black Flame family, Brother B? I know words are power and mantras carry certain tonal frequencies. That's why you have to be said a certain way. Want to know in your experience, can you add your own made-up words to mantra, or is that messing with the energy? I like to be creative. No, it's not messing with the energy. It's actually a good thing because you're putting your own personal stamp on it. You're putting your own essence of power on it. So by all means, if you get the motivation to add your own input, do it. It's not going to destroy it. It's just going to enhance it. And Trident 72 kind of validated that, right? What else we got? Yeah, Be Like Water said, Walt Disney. Activate that. Sometimes, if you guys see your messages, YouTube is funny. If there's a certain trigger word, it'll delete your message. If you use a curse word, it deletes your message. So if you see some of the messages getting erased, that's YouTube. And if I miss it, it's because I didn't see it. But Be Like Water said, Walt Disney went bankrupt a couple times, but kept persisting like that Napoleon Hill shit. Consistency, yeah. I mean, that's what it's about at the end of the day. Yeah, Ichiro Uzumaki. Aquaman, if you didn't see it and you're on this path, you're going to pick up on so much shit in there. So much. It's basically, again, the call of Cthulhu. It's working with the Leviathan and the primordial chaotic energy. And Aquaman, had to come to that challenge, go through many challenges to come to the realization that he was God. And it's just the movie and images subliminally, like when you see the scene, you've probably seen it on the commercial. When you see him riding the beast of Leviathan and coming out of the waters holding the trident, right? The trifold, right? You'll see. That's at the point where he comes to the realization that he is a god. But he fights his godhood through the whole movie. Good movie. Check it out. Definitely relatable to us on this path. All right. I think I just see a couple other comments. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up there, people. I stayed on probably a little excess. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate the support of the channel. You know where to reach me. See the email in the description box. I'll be back on Thursday evening to do another live feed. I'll see those that are coming next week. I don't think next Thursday, due to prepping and some time for the event. I more than likely, if it is, it'll be an early brief class. I don't know if we're going to do a class next Thursday since we have the event on Friday. I'll see. For those that are coming to the event next Friday, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an eventful, impactful, fun event for you. And it's going to be something that'll stay with you. Trust me when I tell you that. All right, so looking forward to that. Other than that, I'll see everybody on Thursday night. Peace to all the gods and the goddesses on the path doing real work. All right, and I'll see all you guys on Thursday.